Delray against John Bubbs of Wildwood. Lead rocks underway. Red rocks being thrown by the Edwards rink. Yellow rocks, Bubbs. And Edwards has the hammer here in end number 1. He won the toss.
Whoa.
Well, Brian, we were talking, the case of the Edwards team, they haven't played in a while, and they've got to be really sort of up in the rafters emotionally because they've just been so anxious to play. Well, actually, both teams obviously will be in this situation. Like any major competition in sport, it's the first few minutes of a game is where the nerves are it's a real challenge. And if both these teams can settle in for a couple of ends and play fairly conservative curling and nobody gets a jump on the other one, I think we're in for one great game.
I would think that they will be rather conservative in the first end or two, see if there are any runs in the ice, get a check on the time.
It should run fairly consistent to what the other sheets have been doing. I think we saw better ice conditions in that on sheet 3 than we had on perhaps sheet 1 over the previous games, and saw some pretty high percentages in the last game, particularly John Bubbs and third Greg Blanchard on the tipping team. So the ice should be quite good for this final match.
Second, Darryl Curry, the Wildwood rink, looking to hit and stick. It's moving over on him. He'll get a piece of it, but he won't be able to save the shooter. Still nothing in play.
But as you say, they'll try and check out both sides of the sheet to see how things are running. See, Duane is calling for Donnie Williams to draw into the left-hand side of the sheet using the outturn to see how it runs.
The ice has been running, starting in around 22.4, 22 and a half, and then picking up into eventual ends after 2 or 3 ends, getting into 23, 24 seconds. It's been very nice ice. Nothing but compliments from all of the curlers for Don Atkinson and his crew in the ice making.
Well, they've done a great job. They've kept the temperature in the building down considerably from last year. And it's much cooler in the building, and that's always better for curling ice, better for the curlers.
As we alluded to in the top of the show, anything can happen where these rinks are concerned. With Duane Edwards, a couple of extra end games in the first 2 that he played, and at times he was up by 4 and 5 and had to hang on to the cliff to stay there. And just a reversal, Johnny Bubbs in 2 of his last 3 games, 2 extra ends against Burtnick and an extra end against Lofgren to stay alive.
Well, on the side of watching the Edwards team in the first few games, I know they won an extremely nerve-wracking game against Oris Malischuk. Edwards made a great shot drawing to the pot, and then it was a wild game against Donnie Spriggs. But from there on in, they were, without doubt, in my opinion, the strongest full team in this Tankard. They just were awesome against Lofgren, pardon me, and then against Kerry Burtnick. And they just raised their game another level, and you could see the confidence and what a difference. So if you can get through a couple of scrappy games and get your confidence there, sometimes there's no stopping you. And the only disadvantage they had here is that they've been off for about a day.
I talked to Duane earlier this afternoon. They were out here at about 1 o'clock prior to the B final to throw the rocks a bit, get loosened up, have a little practice. And I asked him, I said, did you manage to sleep last night at all? And he said, yeah, it was a little crazy for a while. He said, then we decided to have a sauna, and that made us tired enough. He said we were able to get some sleep.
But they, if they can get through the first couple of ends and settle down a bit and get into, if they can play similarly to what they were playing in the last 2 games, boy, they're going to be very, very tough to beat.
Kelly McMechan with his first of 3rd stones here in end number 1. Edwards going to both sides of the house to see if you can not only check the ice, but also maybe come up with a miss, see if he can denote a problem, whether it be in-turn or out-turn from his opposition. And Kelly brings it right down almost to the tee line.
It's pretty fine drawing right off the bat.
If you're wondering about other representatives, by the way, The Wrench will be back from Ontario. He defeated Bob Fedosa 7-5 in an extra end today. So Ed Wernich will be back representing Ontario in the Brier next month in Sault Ste. Marie. And the folks from the Sioux will have a hometown hero to cheer for as Al Harnden defeated Brian Appleton 8-6 today to win Northern Ontario. So the Sioux will have a hometown rink into the Brier. In Alberta, it will be Harold Breckenridge. He defeated Mickey Pendergast 7-6 today to take Alberta's flag into the Brier. And in BC, we're still waiting for a result from that one. No, it is now over. Craig Lapine of Vancouver defeated Brent Pierce, also of Vancouver. So the Craig Lapine foursome out of Vancouver will take the BC colors into Sault Ste. Marie. Saskatchewan will be represented by 4 brothers. The Jamie Schneider family will represent the green and white of Saskatchewan, and they're from Kronau, Saskatchewan. By the way, their sister also won the women's. Excellent curling family.
Boy, that Saskatchewan is full of those great curling families. Goes back to the traditions of the Richardsons and the Campbells. That's the new look with the Schneiders.
It is going to be quite a change this year in the Brier. I mean, a lot of those familiar names just aren't there anymore.
Well, there's always a
lot
couple
of talent.
years. But mind you, as you say, with Wernich in there, that's good for the Brier to have a guy like that in there.
A lot of people were waiting to see if Pat Ryan would come out of BC this year, having moved out there now, and before it was
there with him too.
It was almost the perennial Bernie Sparks show.
Well, both Folk and Ryan out of BC now, but neither failed. They both failed to qualify for it.
First of skip stones for John Bubbs here in the opening end. Looking for a hit and stick on the Edwards stone. Shooter rolls out. Still nothing in the ring.
Well, a small point on this first end, although I think it's important, is that the Edwards team are able to throw draws and get their draw weight early, Brian, and I think that's most important in a game like this, where you're able to throw the. You never want to let a team have any sort of slight advantage, and I think draw weight is always the one you want to get right off the bat as soon as possible. And in this situation, all members of the Edwards squad have been able to try their draw weight.
Incidentally, John Bubbs is wearing a mic, so we will be able to tap ourselves in on the conversations of the Wildwood foursome, but Duane Edwards and his rank elected not to wear a mic. So unfortunately, we won't be able to hear their discussions on hits, misses, what have you. Edwards, who won the A final with a 5-4 win over Kerry Burtnick on Saturday morning. And went into that B side. Of course, it really didn't matter, other than the fact that he could have won the, maybe gone on to win the B final and shortened this by 1 game, but he was able to get a rest after getting knocked out of the B side.
Change turn and throw a little firmer.
Johnny Bubbs will be going to the in turn with his head rather than the out turn. Instead, he's going to throw a little more weight.
Yeah, he was just wasn't quite sure on the ice that he took on his first one, and sort of didn't react the way he would have liked it. So he has opted to switch turns on this.
Yep.
Looking to hit and stick and force Duane Edwards to go after it.
Whoa. Yep. Okay.
Gets it, rolls into a bit of the 12, gets the nose hit. Edwards will go after that rock and make an effort to blank the end. Checking the ice on his way down. There hasn't been a big problem, but some of the curlers have talked about particles of what have you on the ice that they feel might be coming from the rafters. The fans are blowing pretty strong with the air conditioning on, and they feel that may have been a difference mainly on the outside sheets. But as we saw this afternoon, there wasn't too much of a problem with that. Final stone, end number 1. Edwards looking to hit and roll out. He may get a little too full. He will. I don't think he'll be able to lose that shooter. No, it stays around the outside of the 12, and Edwards comes up with one, much the same scenario in end number 1 this afternoon between Bubbs and Tipping when Tipping had the last rock. Edwards hits the sticks with a 1 and takes a 1-0 lead over Bubbs of Wildwood.
My husband, Michael, is not famous for his nose. But watch this. Here, Michael, smell this. What is it?
After one end of this 1990 Manitoba Labatt Tankard Championship Final, this is the 11th Manitoba Tankard for Labatt. Labatt became involved in curling back in 1980. And let's look back for a moment the past 10 years of champions here in Manitoba. 1980, Earl Morris. Kerry Burtnick in 81 with his first of 2 Manitoba Tankard champions. His second came in 1988. And as you can see, 1985, John Bubbs, a winner in Dauphin. That was over Ron McMillan. The score in that game was 6-3.
Back here live, this is the situation in the house at the moment. You see the Yellowstones belonging to Bubbs, one on the back of the 12, and then that guard out in front just off the center line would set that up was a miss by Don Williams, who is delivering his second stone now. Good hit off that one on the back of the 12. Still open, however, to Bubbs.
Well, he even got a slight little roll on that, Brian, which is it's tight making a hit and sticking in the very back of the house like that. But John Bubbs, you see, is calling for a draw here. The reason for that is because he's got last draw. It's behind the tee line, and he feels that instead of hitting it and possibly rolling out and letting Edwards come around the guard, let's get shot rock down and use the backing.
Wait. Whoa,
Delivery
whoa.
from Darryl Curry.
Whoa then.
Kenyon and Hilton stayed right on it.
Sure has enough weight to get there.
Not lots of weight.
It's just sitting off of that center line, not moving at all. Got it close by and leaves Edwards sitting shot in the back of the house.
Well, Darryl's a little frustrated. Yeah, he threw. If he throws draw weight, he's probably okay on that. But I think he just overthrew it, as John said. It's quite obvious. But in those, you got to make sure, like, you've got the whole house to hit, and the worst thing you can do is be heavy on it. If you're a little light, you're still in front of it. And that's the main thing, is to get it at least to the top of the house.
Situation here now for Kelly McMechan, as Edwards asked him to bring it into the 4-foot, and he can be in there, and if he just gets off that center line, the problem for Bubbs here is the fact that Edwards can utilize that back stone as backing. If the Bubbs tries to pick it out, he could end up jamming it on the back one. Gets to the 12, and a piece of the 8.
Well, you got to be impressed with Kelly McMechan. We watched him in the last few days, and I'll tell you, he is such a strong player, and his percentages, for a while there in the game against Lofgren, he was curling 100%. I would say, in what I've seen out here this week, that I would vote him as the best third man out here. He is an extremely strong curler, very powerful player, and he throws that nice controlled tuck delivery.
In case you're wondering what time that they have used, and we will refer to this more a little later on for those of you who just joined us and not familiar with the time clock rules that are now in effect. Edwards took 6 minutes to use for end number 1, Bubbs 5 minutes for end number 1. So the time remaining, 69 minutes for Edwards and 70 minutes for Bubbs out of that allotment of 75. It appears that Bob Genyon got in a bit on the attempt on the McMechan stone, and that leaves Edwards lying 2. One to nothing, Edwards leading after end number 1 when he hit and stuck for that single. Deloraine Rink now looking to put a guard out in front on the center line. There's the situation, and Edwards wanting a guard to split the center line out in front. Kelly McMechan with his second of thirds rocks. You can hear John Bubbs in the background as they're watching that one, getting a look on just how much it moves.
Well, that's not... Well, Kelly would like to throw that again. He's shaking his head a bit there. He didn't want that in the house. If he's 2 or 3 feet in front of the house as a guard, that's fine. But that's the worst thing he could have done from that situation is get into the house. You can see he's checking with Duane on that, but he didn't want to come in. This is what we saw in the tipping match here. Now Bobby Genion has a chance to, really help out the situation for the Bubbs force him by making a double. Guard out front, obviously he wouldn't have this kind of opportunity. But it's pretty slick down there, Brian, already. Quite keen.
Genion being asked now to remove both those stones at the top of the house. Bubbs is elected to go to the other turn. Spins them both off. The shooter remains around and possibly be lying shot.
Good shot by Genion. He had to come up with that one. Seems to, he's talking to himself a little bit about it. It's pretty tricky down there, Brian. I think they're not overly confident on that, but still a great shot.
Those are the only 2 rocks in play that you saw in the rings there, with shot rock, I believe, belonging to John Bubbs in the top of the 12, Edwards in the back. And there's what Bubbs and Genion are viewing as they wait for the delivery from Duane Edwards. Here to have the line. I don't know whether he'd be able to save that shooter. Genion hops on it, rolls it out to the side, and Edwards still lies 1.
Appeared to be a little in on that because the boys got on it immediately and some furious sweeping all the way down. But nonetheless, he did roll out on it. Yeah, Duane was, when he's talking to Kelly, he figured he should have used a little more ice.
I'm sure we haven't seen lines to that spot yet.
This will be first of skip stones for John Bubbs. As last rock here in the second end, the only rock that is in play is at the back of the house belonging to Edwards.
Whoa.
Boy, that's staying out there.
Come on up.
I don't know whether he'll get a piece of that or not. Just manages to pick it up at the last moment. Shooter also rolls out. Nothing in play.
Yeah, you could hear John talking to that one halfway down.
A little free. A little up.
He was indicating he was a little outside, and when he says a little up, it means he threw too much weight on it from what he really wanted to do.
We hope you have enjoyed our coverage here at the Winnipeg Arena since last Thursday, when this Tankard got underway. The chase by 32 ranks, which has now been narrowed to 2. We are pleased to announce that through the assistance with the MCA, we've been able to arrange a new contract. This the first of a 5-year contract. We just completed 5 years. We hope you have enjoyed the telecast. We'll be coming to you next year from the Keystone Center in Brandon. It appear to have sufficient weight. It rolls to the 4, T-line back of the 4, comes to rest, and it will now be John Bubbs' turn to try and blank the end. Duane Edwards was not successful in end number 1 and had to take his point. Leads it 1-0.
You can see on that draw there, it got about 3/4 of the way down the sheet, Brian, before it started to move, and then it moved about 1.5 to 2 feet. But that's the advantage again. We keep mentioning that center line. It's good for people at home and also good for the curlers to be able to judge judge movement of the rock.
Last rock, second end. It's on its way. Bubbs looking for the hit and roll.
3. 8.
Right on the nose.
And like Duane Edwards, he too sticks around. Unable to blank the end, picks up his 1, and we're back on even terms. It's 1-1 between John Bubbs of Wildwood and Duane Edwards of Deloraine. In this, the AB final of the 1990 Manitoba Labatt Tankard Championship. We'll be back.
But more importantly, the Purple Heart. John Bubbs and Duane Edwards all tied up at 1. They've exchanged the hammer in the first 2 ends. Both skips wanted to hit and roll with their final rocks, but unfortunately, John Bubbs, like Duane Edwards in the first end, gets the hit and stick. So we're tied at 1 after 2. Let's go up to Brian and Don.
Thank you, Joe. With that situation, the reason, even more importantly, that he'd want to roll out, because if he did, or if he was able to maintain last rock and get his deuce, it takes away that coin toss at the beginning that Edwards won.
Oh, that's right. Well, for Edwards, winning the coin toss was really important because they haven't played in a day or so. So for them, I think that was a nice break so that they could settle into their game, and they got a chance to do a little drawing and get rid of the butterflies and that. But both of them, in attempting to blank the ends, have stuck around.
And they've had a good chance throwing up those guards and with the hits to check both sides of the center line and see if there are any runs.
Yeah, and it's a little tricky, I think, with the intern coming this way. We saw Bob Genion, even though he made a nice double, he was questioning it a little bit, and John Bubbs on his first rock just about missed the rock, he thought, and it's going to be a little tricky down the middle, Brian.
Okay, there's a situation that you can see at the moment. It's tied up 1-1 as we have action into the third end. 2 rocks in play, both of them at the moment belonging to Bubbs. One in the top of the 8, the other one outside the rings at about 3 o'clock. Don Williams manages to remove the Bubbs stone at the top of the 12, but he lost the shooter. So that one that you see to the right of your screen there is the only rock in play at the moment. Edward does have the hammer here in the third end. Darrell Curry looking to replace that stone.
Yep. Guard.
For those of you who may not be familiar with the John Bubbs foursome, this is a relatively new rink, not in terms of playing time, but in terms of being together. After
Darrell.
There was a movement in the John Bubbs rink when Dave Iverson left in third place, third position, and went to Bill Carey. They recruited Bobby Genion, who had been with Ursel in the years before that, Jim Ursel. Darrell Curry and Donnie Hilton moved over to the John Bubbs rink, I believe about 3 years ago after playing for Ronnie Westcott. And it takes a couple of years for teams to gel, for skips to get used to their players, what weight they like to throw, especially on hits.
Oh, definitely. But in picking up Bobby Genion, they've got one of the more experienced curlers in the entire province. As a matter of fact, in this situation, this is Bob Genion's third trip to the final. 1971, he was with Larry Taylor. They lost against Don Dugan. Now, that's a long time ago, but that shows you the experience. And in 1975, he curled third for Barry Fry, and they lost in the final to Rod Hunter. But Bobby, he's curled with the likes of Mike Riley for a few years. As I say, Larry Taylor, Barry Fry. He's played with Jimmy Ursel, Brian Pence, and Ronnie Westcott, and even Orist at one time. So you pick up a curler of the experience of Bob Genion here, and he can fit in on any team. He's got the good attitude. He's obviously very, very experienced. And it doesn't take long. It takes only a few games before a guy like this fits in beautifully.
Whoa.
Well, there is a guard, red rock you see just off the center line that they're trying to get around. And Barry, Bubbs looking to steal here in the third end. That rock is sitting right out on the center line.
That is tricky down there. See, that won't move at all. The center line again. Darrell Curry's rock wouldn't move there either, and that's going to be a very delicate spot to make any sort of come-arounds in the rest of the game. They may have to start playing towards the outside of the sheet to get any rocks around guards. They may have to ignore that and hope that that they don't have to be forced in behind in the center rocks.
The problem multiplies when you get ice running like that. If it just doesn't want to move, that if you get a hit and roll in behind cover, it's almost impossible to get to.
Well, that's exactly right. And here's where Kelly McMechan has a really good shot at this. The way he's been playing up to now, this is his type of shot.
They kept the brooms off it all the way. To see if it'll come over. It's going to be on the guard. Catches a piece of it. Shooter rolls out, moves it over to a corner guard, and opens up the 4-foot.
Yeah, a little frustration there for Kelly. He had a little more weight maybe than he wanted, but it does show how straight it is. This can turn out to be a bit of a nightmare for the guys. But as the shot that was attempted when Duane called Kelly was the hit and roll, that's the best way to get in behind any sort of center guards. Obviously, they may not be able to draw behind them, so you'll be able to hit and roll in behind them.
Bobby Genion now attempting to set up a long center guard. He'd like to split the center line.
Clean.
About halfway to the house.
Up. Up. Stay close. Now hard.
Here down
Hard.
saying weight's
Right up.
good.
Hurry.
Now it's a matter of bringing it over onto that center line to protect the stone that's in there.
Boy, look at that. That didn't move. You know, maybe, what, curled about 6 inches, the whole length of the ice. And see, Genion, he's sort of...
The further you bring it, the more it's going to curl. But both Curry and Hilton wanted to stay off it because they knew it had about halfway weight. But the rock just didn't want to seem to move over.
Yeah, that didn't move at all. Here, you can tell again on the replay here. Maybe just a couple of inches near the end, but boy, that's not much, and that makes it tough down that middle. As they say, they may have to go to the outside to get rocks in play.
McMechan now trying with the out turn to get to that stone. Great shot. Managed to get by the guard, just by a brush hair.
See, the tough thing here is a super shot by McMechan. Now, you can see he just gets by the guard, but the problem is, even doing it that tight, he still rolls open, now allowing Bubbs to hit and roll in behind.
They're a little further off, though.
See, you can see there now, as they say, obviously they're going to have a great deal of difficulty if, you know, I don't think it can be done, at least from the right-hand side coming in behind a center guard. So the only way to do it will be to hit and roll in behind.
And if Kelly McMechan threw that one up the stick, it would be very difficult, even with the intern side on the left side of center.
I don't think
seem to want to move.
I don't think they're going to be able to draw in. So, as they say, they're going to have to start, if they're going to build some any sort of house, and they're going to have to start using corner guards and going in from see if they can get in from the inside towards the outside. But boy, that center line is going to be really tough for them to read.
First of skip stones for John Bubbs.
Whoa, stay close. Whoa.
They called him right off the moment he let it go. Now it's a matter of how much it'll come over, if he'll get the roll. Pretty well the nose hit right out in front. The thing about that stone being there is that Duane Edwards would have a tough time of spinning off it into the rings in order to count.
But for Edwards here, he can he's got a few options in a way. If take a look at that. If you see there, he's going to try and hit here and roll in behind the guard. But if he rolls too far, he could roll over in this area too, which would be okay. But another thing is, although almost impossible, I think, would be to roll into this area. Not the way he's playing it, I don't think.
First of skip stones for Edwards. Appear to be just to the left of center of that stone, and it will stay out. And again, Bubbs will have the opportunity of getting in first.
Watch John here, see what he does. He may even opt to try a raise. I don't know. No, he's going to try the come around. If it was a little closer to the house, he may try a straight back.
Let's hear what they say.
There.
Right there was a quick decision.
I guess his thinking here is that get a little further out from the center, it may be okay on that. So it gives some idea to the front end.
Bubbs with his final rock here in the third end. Still the hammer to come from Duane Edwards. We're tied at 1-1 playing the third. Nothing in the rings, as you can see, but a lot of guards out in front. Difficulty is trying to get the rock to move.
Line's good.
Curry and Hilton jumped on it right away.
Wait, lots of room. Lots of
Now
room.
they know it'll stay out there. It's a matter of weight of getting it to the rings and forcing Edwards to go after it.
Hurry.
Looks like it's going to come up a bit short.
Hurry, hurry, hurry. Hurry.
They have to get it to the rings. It won't, and Edwards will have an opportunity to blank this in.
See, also with dying weight on that, Brian, that never moved an inch. You can see he took a little to the outside of the forefoot there, and that just never moved, and it just stayed right there. John was hoping that the further out you get, maybe the more it will curl, but even at that, as you can see, he took ice about 1.5 inches out the on the outside of the forefoot there, and it just never moved.
You think he has a chance of splitting these two in?
Oh yeah, definitely.
So the one that he is shooting on to split off of,
he's got to come
doesn't
across
have an
the
awful
face.
lot of room to go. Yeah, that's true.
No, this is good. If we can look at it from there, all he has to do is hit this side of it and roll in this way and split the rock, this one in like that. This is what John didn't want to allow.
He's got to use the intern here to come across the face of it.
But he's got to come across it. If it stays out, he's just going to raise himself in for one. So far, it's not moving.
It is staying out at the moment.
No, it's not going to come up. He's simply going to raise himself in for one.
Staying right there.
Boy, that's straight on both sides.
Yes, he does just that. He rolls it into the button. They'll certainly, if nothing else, use that shot for information if they have to attempt the same shot later on to try and maybe get into count.
Question to you. Last night we ran an MCA postcard about the St. Adolphe Curling Club. They're having difficulty now with declining participation. How is the MCA, or what is the MCA trying to do to build up the numbers of curlers in Manitoba?
Joe, we're aware that there are a number of clubs throughout the province having problems. We feel that there are basically two approaches that we can take. I think on that clip last night, they indicated that they were starting to try and emphasize their junior program. I think this is one of the main keys to the whole thing, is if you can get the juniors, you can keep the club going. The tendency has been to think that we could just open the doors and the club would run itself. We didn't have to promote the game. We do now have to promote the game. The other area,
go ahead.
The other area I would say is to reinforce the idea that curling is fun and get people back into the clubs just for the sake of having a good time.
There's no question curling is fun, and in the past, some of the competitive curlers complained that that fun was being taken out of the game by the fact that there were too many officials. This year, no hog line officials. You're giving the curlers back the game.
We like to think we have, and quite honestly, with what we've seen during the last 4 days, we have been extremely pleased. I think the fellows have done a great job in policing themselves. We're satisfied we've made the right move. Now we have to convince the rest of the country that we've done that.
The Canadian Curling Association was not too pleased, I believe, with this move.
They have not really indicated that they were not pleased. All they have said that they did not agree with our movement, and that we could not expect anything the same when we get to the Brier. The teams will expect to find the usual number of umpires and officials there.
All right, Howard Fairburn, thank you very much. Howard Fairburn, the president of the Manitoba Curling Association. Now back up to Brian and Don.
And here's the situation at the moment with the delivery from
Don Williams.
Don Williams. He's trying to get it onto that center line. Set up a center line guard, see if they can work up on the steel.
Brian, as we were talking in the break there, this is going to be an extremely difficult game to come around anything. Both sides of the sheet are running incredibly straight, much straighter than the other sheets that we've watched, and this will cause fits for the curlers out there. It could be extremely exciting to watch, but I'll tell you, I don't envy these players out there trying to make a come around, because boy, if you don't split that broom perfectly, you'll never get in behind.
And it almost reverses your strategy, because you're always thinking of those come around shots, and now if you get the chap and lie over behind cover, you've got And you've really got to go to the book to try and figure out how to get to it. And at times, maybe you get too defensive because you can't come around.
Well, exactly. And here's the situation here with Curry right now. Like, what looks like a reasonably good shot is not a good shot in a way, because what happens now, he's given Edwards a chance for Kelly McMechan to hit and roll. And the best way we talked about earlier to get behind these guards is to hit and roll behind them. You've still got to play quiet weight. They may have to, there's a good shot of it, what Kelly's facing. They may have to resort to putting short guards up front and maybe raising them. So we'll see as the game progresses.
Yeah, you may end up hearing the curlers on the ice refer to it as not finishing. That means that as it comes into dying weight, it just won't curl over enough. It just doesn't even be able to finish the shot. That shooter is to the 12 and rolls out with assistance from John Bubbs. And now you wonder if John Bubbs at this point goes to the tap back.
Well, he's still trying to get in behind. I don't know.
I think he must feel that if it will get to the center line with dying weight, it will finish. But we haven't seen it happen in either way.
There's been no indication so far in the game early. And as I say, the frustration of this for the curlers is, and if they get a little outside in the room too, it's just doomed.
Plus, maybe he's playing the if-or here, that withdraw weight. If it doesn't look like it may come over a little sooner, he's going to play it tight to that guard, and he can maybe run his own in that way.
Actually,
or is the Edwards stone that was out
that's
in front?
Right. That's right.
Yep.
I'm so used to Bubbs throwing red rocks. I think he's
actually,
red rocks.
I fell into that trap too. So both of us got caught on that. So our apologies to everybody watching. Won't happen again.
Well, see, now this one got started a little more off the center line, and maybe once it gets on a little bit of that outside ice, it will curl first.
Well, you know, there's some curlers out there, and I remember we've talked about this in years past, is that you can release a rock different ways, and if you've got the talent to be able to do it, you can what they call roll a rock. Like if you get the thing started when you're letting it go, you let it roll off your hands and turn it almost when you're letting it go, rather than letting a straight release. You might be able to get things started that way, and then so some curlers have the ability to be able to do that. In a case, maybe Genion was able to do it there, and if he can do it on this kind of straight ice, then maybe that's the ticket.
They sort of get outside of it and come back into the broom.
Well, a little bit, yeah, but you roll your wrist as you let it go.
Kelly McMechan trying to hit and roll off of that Bubbs stone, but it too is run dead straight down there. Advantage now swings to Bubbs. Likewise, he'll try and do
Kelly's one of the great pure hitters in the game. You can see the way he's got that very strong delivery. He's a very powerful guy out there, and when he lets it go, like he's got that good leg drive, and with a tuck delivery, which is often a very good delivery to use for hitting. He's a strong hitter, and mind you, in this situation, he's been just a little off in trying to get his hits and rolls. So we'll see what Genion can do.
Whoa. Yep.
Last and third rocks for Genion. Again, trying to hit and roll. It's at this time, will it get over enough?
No, that's a good shot. That is a great shot for Bobby. Controlled weight. It's a little open still, about half open, but the thing is, he's at least got it partially in behind the guard.
And it's tough to save the shooter off of a shot like that if you get your weight up at all.
Oh, exactly, because yeah, you're right. In this situation for Duane, if he's looking at about a half of it, he'll do well to be able to hit it and stick around. You're right.
Two to one. Edwards leading here in the fourth end of play. Edwards taking one in the opening end when he hit and stuck with his last rock. Likewise, Bubbs did the same in the second to even it up at 1-1. And then Edwards tried the split in the third end with the stone that was up at the top of the 12 just outside the rings, but couldn't get it to curl over, and it ended up with a nose hit. He raised his own back into the 4 for a single and leads 2-1. Now this is moving onto the center line. He'll get the 1, but gets it thin enough that the shooter is going to roll to the 12 and out.
Boy, you know, that shows you how difficult that shot was to stick around, because Duane
I thought he
threw
had
that,
the perfect weight to stay
he
there.
threw great weight on that. Nice controlled weight, and he certainly didn't overthrow it by any means, and he still rolled out on it. So, boy, that is tough. I don't think many curlers can appreciate how difficult those kind of shots are when you get straight running turns like that. In a lot of curling clubs, if they're moving in there, that's not that difficult a shot. But boy, you get it out here, and you throw that kind of weight and still roll out. It'll give you an idea what the boys are up against out here.
And we'll have a lot of this kind of scenario, I think, throughout this game, because it always starts, of course, in the end when you don't have last rock. You have your lead man throw up a center guard, and therein starts the action. It's very tough to get anything over to the other side unless you get just an edge off that center guard. You don't peel it correctly. It ends up being a quarter guard, and somebody gets behind, and all of a sudden the end switches. Bubbs with his first of skip stones here, trying to, for the same shot that Jenyon threw earlier.
Fine, yep. Whoa.
Rolling it off his wrist and trying to get it to come around that way.
Hey. Whoa.
Appears to have sufficient weight.
Whoa.
But again, it too is sitting on that center line. It won't come in behind the guard.
Well, it started to move there, Brian, at about the hog line, and then sort of straighten out again, and then with the dying weight in the last couple of feet, well, moved a little bit.
After 3 ends of play, John Bubbs' rink as a team total is at 63%. While Duane Edwards as a rink is at 72.
I think the percentages are fairly low compared to this afternoon.
That's not even good at all.
I think my might have some underneath it too. I don't know.
But this is a tricky sheet of ice, and it's a lot of half shots being made, and it's quite understandable when you look at how straight the ice is running.
Bubbs lies 1 at the moment at the top of the 4, but it is exposed to Edwards as he throws his final stone at end number 4. That is well outside. He may have gassed this one. Will he get a piece of it? It starts to come over now. He's got enough of it to roll it out. Shooter rolls out, and John Bubbs will have the opportunity to blank the end. It is so unforgiving if you get a touch out off that center line with enough weight.
Well, I think it's just he maybe threw a little more on that one. I think it was just a difference of weight, because he was much softer in that first one, Brian, I think. Because I think he threw it okay, because the boys didn't panic on it when he first let it go, but a little more weight, and boy, unforgiving, as you say.
John Bubbs gets an opportunity to check hit weight towards the outside of the sheet where they haven't been playing all end to see how it runs, and he blanks the end, and we remain the same after 4.
We decided to either go for the 2 or the 3 and be either 1 or 2 up, or 2 or 3 up instead of 1 up without or 1 down with.
There it is, go Bubbs go, and Jeff Stoughton and his wife Susan, who play out of Wildwood. You see on the left there Dave Iverson, who is now going to play with Stoughton, so he'll be going back to Wildwood. The fellow in this middle there just bending over, you see, is the 5th man on the Bubbs foursome. That's Gary Bentham, who's played with them a great deal over the year. And sitting next to him is Danka Parody, who is the girlfriend of Darryl Curry. Some of that Wildwood support in there this evening, and the Duane Edwards rink, of course, is not short of any support. A number of people from the Deloraine area in behind us here.
Yeah, there is a nice group that came in from Deloraine. Excellent, and the boys really appreciate that.
And Edwards is lying 1 at the moment. You see there on the top of the 4, in behind a center guard.
Whoa, yep. Hurry.
Darryl Curry looking to peel that one off. Moves it over, has a corner guard
Shot.
on the right-hand side, exposing the Edwards stone. Edwards asking Don Williams to replace that guard on the center line.
Don Williams, that actually lives in Medora, actually produced some fine curlers in their time, going back in the 70s with Barry and Murray Sambrook were a fine team out of the Medora area. And as a matter of fact, in 1972 in Burden in the Tankard playdowns, they had Malistuck in the first game. Malistuck won in an extra inning and stole it. Went on to win the world that year. So they can thank Sambrook for letting him off the hook on that one in 1972. You don't remember that one, do you, Brian?
I'm afraid not.
Well, I'll tell you, there are 3 people that. Well, I remembered it, the Sambrooks remember it, and of course Malistuck remembers it. So
it's a mental file that you have of games gone by us.
That's an important fact.
Never ceases to amaze me.
So if the Sambrooks are watching this game, expect a card on that one.
Darrell Curry with the intern trying to get by that center guard. We'll see if it'll curl enough to get over to remove the Edwards stone in the 4. Now it moves on that center line.
That's an excellent shot. Well, that moved a little bit, Brian, to come around there. Maybe the ice is changing a little bit so that we can get something around there, because that wasn't exactly draw weight. That was a light hit. But here we've got a chance for Kelly McMechan to do a nice hit and roll in behind that guard.
The only rock in the ring, as you see there, belongs to Bubbs. Kelly McMechan will try and just hit that stone to the right of center and see if he can get a bit of a roll back in behind that center guard. Here's the view that Kelly McMechan has.
Boy, he's going to be close. Oh, excellent shot.
Excellent shot.
Just about perfect. He left a little bit of it showing, but boy, those are the ones where you're just sort of leaning when you're watching them if you're trying to get them to come over, and he just about had a perfect hit and roll. But he leaves it a little open. Here's on the replay, you can see it. See, right there he's on the nose, but now it starts to move. And you can see Duane just getting over there enough, but it's still a very tight to that guard for Bob Genion, so he has to be very careful on this shot.
But it is, in Finkbeiner phraseology, showing a bit of leg.
You know, I haven't really said that
No,
lately.
you have not.
You keep bringing it up. I've been trying to get rid of that, but I guess I won't be able to.
You came out with that term about 10 years ago, and I haven't forgotten it.
That's true. That's true.
First of third stones for Bob Genion.
Yes.
Edwards lies 1.
Hurry.
Top of the 4.
Hard. Whoa. 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 Yep.
Oh, Bobby's got a good shot here. Nice controlled weight.
He'll get it, and they want to move it away from that center guard to make it more difficult for Edwards to get back to.
Well, that's excellent curling for both teams here. Those are difficult shots, but you can see they tried to roll it a little further away than that, make this roll for hit and roll for Kelly a little more difficult. So Bobby did his job on that.
Nice steady release from McMechan. Duane Edwards telling the sweepers to stay close in case it starts to move. Making it too thin now. It rolls over and is exposed in between those two guards.
Yeah, they had a beauty there. Just lost it a bit, but it's hard to judge. But it seems like the ice maybe is moving a little bit now, Brian. This is what it does, though. Maybe more importantly, is that it changes the hit for Genion. Now he has to go to the outturn side, and maybe they're not quite as familiar with it. This is where the draw is now. If we recall in the last in, John took exactly that kind of ice for a guard, and it stayed right there. So we'll just see what happens on this with Genion, because boy, with a hit, not much room for error.
Now he'll have to just get by that center guard.
Whoa.
Last of third stones for Bob Genion is away. He'll have plenty of room to get by the guard. He is by.
Oh, excellent shot.
But it just wouldn't come over after that. Wouldn't move, and it ends up in almost the same spot.
Donnie Hilton giving a little body English there for the hit and roll, but boy, that was an excellent shot by Genion. I think the roll would have been almost too much to ask in that situation.
It was coming up too good.
Watch by the amount here that it gets by that guard, the roll would be almost impossible because there's very little to spare, maybe an inch.
I think to get the roll, he'd have to throw about enough weight just to get it out of the house. Look at how tight that is.
Bubbs lies one at the top of the 8th.
Scott's calling his office.
For Edwards, if he doesn't get, he can always roll behind the other corner guard on this shot too if it stays out on him.
First of Skip Stones. Now Don Williams and Jack Edwards jump on it. He is by about the same distance by that guard as the Genion stone.
Well, that's pretty fine picking, Brian. I really think that's a very difficult shot down there, and I think you got to give the guys credit for that. A lot of people that are watching from the stands may not realize how difficult that spot is, and that's pretty fine curling. But it's rolled just slightly now for Bubbs. He's got the advantage of being able to roll either way on that one. If it gets a little outside, he can roll behind the corner guard off to the right. If it gets a little inside, he can roll into the center guard. Either way, he's got a nice. Either roll is good for him because he's got a nice setup to get his deuce.
Yeah, with where it ended up, he does have an option here.
Well, actually, yeah, like any roll is good for him because the worst thing he can do possibly is hit it right on the nose.
This is where the call from Bob Genion becomes very crucial. Let the sweepers know whether to stay on it or not as to what side it's going to hit the rock.
Yeah, come on, hurry! Hurry! Hurry hard! Hard!
Well,
yeah, they're going for the right-hand roll.
Yeah, they were trying to keep it on the right-hand side of the stone, but
now it gives Duane a chance to hit and roll to the center, or quite frankly, either way.
So these ends are becoming first in gets the point if you can get the roll, because it just isn't moving enough to get to it.
Yeah, weights can fly though to try to play the other way. You know, like you leave it too long. And...
But you see, for Duane, the ideal situation for Duane is to force Bubbs. You know, ideally you'd like to steal here, Brian, if you could hit and roll in behind. But I think when you're playing teams of this caliber, what you want to do is force the opposition to get one here. Yeah, take your chances trying to get a deuce when you have control. For John Bubbs, if he gets a roll there, he could have got his deuce. This way now, Duane would like to force John into taking one.
Last rock for Duane Edwards here at end number 5. Trying to see if they can get enough roll to move it over. They can't. An opportunity for John Bubbs to blank the end once again.
Started to roll. Yes, maybe a little more weight than had been thrown down there before, but at least he started a little more, and he's got himself a roll. But
it's the same as John Bubbs, though, said to Bob Genion when he went down the other way. You know, you're not sure whether you should leave it long enough to stay on the high side of the stone and get the roll one way, and if you wait too long, you don't have that opportunity.
Yeah, you give it a chance for either way, but you get caught in the trap in the middle all the time, and usually what happens is you do hit it on the nose.
I just noticed Ronnie Westcott sitting up in the crowd there. He knows the front end of this team very well.
Oh, who's he sitting with now? Are we starting rumors again?
He is.
Hey, whoa! Whoa!
John's going to get the perfect roll when he doesn't need it. No, not quite.
Roll at the wrong time, and it won't roll out of the rings. It'll end up staying in there. Once again, we're back on even terms. The points coming each time on attempted blanks, but they haven't been able to do it. They haven't had much of a chance to look at it. More of the Wildwood fans in the crowds with the Go Bubbs Go. Jeff Stoughton, who will be in Morris next weekend, as a matter of fact, for the provincial mixed. He will be back on the ice. So 1 for John Bubbs in that 5th end, puts us back on even terms. It's 2-2 after 5 ends of play. Let's go down to Joe Pascucci.
Thank you very much, Brian. John, tricky ice out there?
Yeah, it's running a little straighter than we'd like it. I'd like to see a little more movement on especially that out-turn we were throwing on the 5th end. But it's got some spots where it will bury, but they're just not as many as we'd like.
It looks like the first team that can score 2 will take command in this game.
Yeah, that'll be a big jump if you can get up with a deuce. But we're hopefully going to get the hammer back, so maybe we can get it. But who knows? We get some guards up, we might get a steal out of it.
All right, John. 2 between John Bubbs and Duane Edwards. Time now to get to the mail for the last time. An MCA postcard from the Altamont Curling Club.
It was after the First World War that funds were raised to build the skating and curling rink in Altamont. Shares were sold at $10 apiece, and in 1920, construction was completed at a cost of over $6,000. At first, curling in Altamont was only possible during the daylight hours. That was until 1925.
Once the hydro came through in 25, then they were able to put lights on the curling rink. But before that, the ceiling was too low to put the old gas lights, because they hung down and they'd get hit with a broom.
70 years later, the people of Altamont are still curling in the same rink on the same one sheet of natural ice that their parents and grandparents curled on.
A few years ago, they talked about building a curling rink by itself. We thought if we did that, this one would die. The young people have carried on and done a wonderful job, because now there's so many artificial sheets of ice around that nobody likes to curl in the cold. It's still cold out there, you got to dress up for it.
Yes, some fond memories. Altamont is rather close, dear to my heart.
I understand it is, Brian. Isn't that your old hometown, your own stomping grounds?
Not mine. It's my father's, however. My aunt still lives out in Altamont, and we know a lot of people out there.
Yeah.
I'm sure she will be watching tonight's telecast. We wish you well, and
Yeah, bring it up. Bring it up a little.
we say hello to everybody out in Altamont.
Bring it up on the line.
Here's the situation as, again, center line guards up. John Bubbs with 1 on that 5th end to even it up at 2-2. And he'll just try and keep putting up center line guards, hoping for a miss from Edwards. See if he can get the sneak in behind it. On the other hand, Duane Edwards will keep peeling those center line guards up. He doesn't mind just rolling off for corner guards.
Well, Brian, you know, if this keeps up without any too many misses here and there, we're in for a very, very dramatic finish here. A low-scoring game should be maybe 5-4 or 4-3 game here if this continues.
Speaking of misses, the first one on that nose hit by Jack Edwards leaves that center guard up there, and now Darryl Curry will try and come in behind it with an out-turn draw.
No. Yep. Yep. Whoa, 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 whoa. Yep. Yep. Whoa, 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 whoa. Yep. Whoa.
Would appear to be by it. Has enough weight. To the 12, the 8. Back of the 4 with the assistance of Duane Edwards into the back 8.
Once again, we've talked about it so many times. It's behind that tee line, and you can see Duane Edwards is almost ignoring this. He's going to ask Donnie Williams if he can just simply come in behind the center guard and in the top 8 foot. So he's not really playing down to this rock. This is a good call.
John Bubbs had to keep them on it, otherwise he was going to disturb the center guard. He was hoping it would dig in before it got back behind the tee line. They'll be on that center line guard. It'll split them. Both will remain in play. Duane Edwards almost managed to roll that shooter in.
Well, if nothing else, it appears to be changing slightly. The rocks are moving a bit, because we didn't think we'd see in the earlier ends whether the guys would be racking on the guards that way, but that did come across. So that's a good sign that the ice is curling a little bit more, at least, which will allow for some nice come around. So that's good to see.
All right. One more.
John Bubbs was trying to decide here. He was calling for a center guard from Darryl Curry, then changed his mind, went to the other side of the center line to maybe utilize the guard that's up in front, and then changed back to the center line guard.
Whoa. Not in. Not in. Yep, a little tighter. Yep. Whoa, 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 whoa. Okay. Shot, Darryl.
And it settles into the top of the 12. That looked like it was going to dig up about 3 feet back.
You see, the reason he didn't want it in, and that's where it came, is as we can see from this overhead shot, that now for the Edwards, he can hit and roll in behind this guard and double the back maybe. That's the reason John was saying to them, we don't want it in, we don't want it in, leave it up.
Don Williams, the last of third stones, here in end number 6. He will get a piece of it, but will roll the shootout also. And it will give Bubbs another opportunity to set up that center guard.
Yeah, for Williams, he wanted to at least stick around on that. If you do hit and roll, that's fine, and possibly hit and roll in behind the guard, which would have been ideal. Even if it wasn't shot rock right, gives him a chance for a deuce, at least with some potential. But since he rolled out, it'll allow Bobby Genion a chance to put it back, and I think they want to keep it just outside of the house on this one again.
We move to third rocks now. This will be Bob Genion.
Again, with the clock, the time clock, the thirds are staying down at the other end. I think that's personally, I think that's great for the game. But a lot of them are so used to coming down and having their and talking over the situation with the skips. Some of them are having a little difficulty getting used to this.
John Bubbs out to give this one a bit of assistance. They want to make sure they get it over the hog line. Of course, with that time clock that is in now into the provincials and into national curling, they get 75 minutes per rink to play the game. 10 minutes for an extra end if needed. If you don't have time enough remaining on, you haven't finished curling by that 75-minute limit, you lose, whether you're 1 up, 2 up, 6 up, whatever. Quite a bit of time still left here after 5 ends of play. Edwards still had 45 minutes left and Bubbs 42.
Yeah, as there's been a couple of games that have been very tight here. The Vic Peters team, surprisingly enough, almost got down to about 2 minutes to play against Don Wiles. Now, there isn't a faster team in the game that I can think of than Vic Peters, so that's kind of interesting. And Burtnick and Bubbs the other day, or yesterday, just about got caught on it too. So we haven't seen it yet, though.
They've been using about an average of about 6.5 minutes an end.
Exactly.
What it's been averaging out to. Now they're waiting to see if this one will come back to that Bubbs stone, if it'll move over onto the center line. It does, rolls to the button, and is afforded some backing on a possible jam by the Bubbs stone.
But you can see Kelly, that's a fine shot, but Kelly was yelling for them to wait for it to come in. The weight's perfect, but they wanted to come in. And you can see on the replay here, they still, well, a fair amount of room. There's 3 or 4 inches past that guard. But they didn't want to bring it back in behind the tee line because he doesn't want to leave Bobby Genion a chance to come down and get shot rock. Bob, the best here, I think they're playing just to come down to it.
Wait.
He doesn't mind being second shot if he can get right on top of it.
Whoa. Yep. Whoa.
Don Hilton, Darryl Curry staying close with the brushes.
Now hard. Right up hard.
Now Bubbs calls them on. He wants to get to that stone. He can nudge it back and get shot off it.
Good job, Bob.
Hard to say who's lying shot
I
as
think
Duane Edwards takes a look at it.
Yeah, I think Edwards is shot, but you see, Genion did his job on this one because what he's done now, he's allowed a chance now to, there's some room there. So he can, looking at it from the overhead there, with Bubbs, he's hoping to be able to move this rock up into here for a shot. Edwards now wants to play a delicate come around and just hit this back maybe here and roll over there. But he's got to be pretty quiet on this, but he's got a chance now because with Genion leaving a little room in there for them to do it.
They have a very good look at it. We can't tell from here, and Duane Edwards was still trying to decide which was shot.
He's looking at back ring here. Gee, that is close, isn't it? I would still say Edwards has got it. But they don't want to be throwing more than back ring weight.
And sometimes you're gambling on that center hole where the spike is going to go in on a measurement,
well,
whether
that's
it's
a good
out.
point, yeah.
I mean, you may be able to look at it and look down, and it seems like you've got it, but more skips have been surprised when they put the stick on it.
If the center is off.
The center is off a bit.
But this is an extremely delicate shot for Kelly. He's got to have no more than back ring weight on this.
Final third stones here for Kelly McMechan in the 6th end. Edwards with last rock. Going to rub it onto the...
Yeah, he got that started a little bit. A little inside when he let it go.
Now let's listen to Bubbs and Jenny and see if they discover who's shot.
Well, you want to just pop that up onto there?
That'd be nice if we could do it, eh?
Sure. Why not? Why not? Even if we angle freeze it, it's not that bad. Just cozy up, give ours a little bump if we have to.
Okay, on the...
Why not? Sure. It's too close to call.
They don't know the who shot in here, but John is asking to raise his own, this one up into this area, and it'll prevent Edwards from doubling it off maybe, but he wants to make sure that he can raise that right onto the pot and hopefully freeze it up to it.
The thing is, if he does raise his up and he leaves the shooter in there, the double would be almost virtually impossible because Edwards would end up spinning his own back.
Well, that's true. But they still got to be careful too, because if he gets it at the wrong angle, if he comes across the face of his own rock here, he could allow Edwards just to hit on the nose to spill double Bubbs' rock out of there and lie to. So
just for weight.
He's got to stay on that high side of that rock.
First of skip stones for John Bubbs, trying to steal here in the 6th. We're tied at 2-2.
Yep, get it in. Yep. Whoa.
He realized it was cutting over too much, that he wasn't going to be able to raise it back, so he wanted to make sure he had it in.
See, that's where he didn't want it. That's exactly how he didn't want it. Now that, just as I mentioned earlier there, that now it's simple when we look at it from the overhead here, that if Edwards just hits right there on the nose, then he'll double that off like that to lie to. So it took off on him, as you can hear Jenny and Bubbs talking. He had to hit it on the high side, Brian, and it just took off on him.
He may have been better to try and leave it short also than to bring it in that tight. I mean, that's a pretty tough double to miss.
Well, he was actually saying that near the end, but you can see such a fine line in there, and the way the rocks are reacting. It's a perfect weight for Bubbs, but perfectly wrong the way it ended up for him. So Duane has a great chance here to hit and stick for 2. And not only that, if he does, it'll be very difficult for Bubbs to double him off.
Edwards, first of skip stones on its way, looking for the nose hit.
He's got a lot of weight on this.
He may just get the one out of there. Spills his own.
Bad break.
Ouch. What a reversal from what looked like a double that would be hard to miss. Ended up missing. He had plenty of weight on it, mind you, and it didn't come over onto the beak of that stone. Ended up spilling his own.
I think the weight's what hurt him on that, Brian. I think he overthrew it, because if it comes up a bit, he's not going to do that. So now he's in. Watch the replay on that. You can see by the center line, he doesn't have a great deal more to come up, but it won't move because of the weight. And you can see he came within, maybe a quarter of an inch of making the double.
Front 12 foot.
But boy, that's the worst thing that could have happened for them. I really hadn't expected that possibility actually when I saw the situation.
John Bubbs mentioning to his front end that he wants to just up in the top 12, an opportunity here to maybe steal 2.
Yeah, what a turnaround this is quickly. Both of them giving each other opportunities here, and but this is a difficult situation for Duane Edwards if John can put the cap on this with a nice guard.
Of course, we always hope that a game is never settled on a shot being missed, but instead of a shot being made.
Clean, Walt.
You don't want to get it in too deep. But it is going to move on that center line. Back to the 12, to the 8. Is he going to set up the same shot again? It settles in at the 8. It's a little deeper than he would have liked.
Well, it's still not bad, because the main thing there is that if Duane comes down and hits that one, this rock here will still be shot rock even if he makes the double.
I think what he is pondering is if he can come in off the 1 and the 4 foot.
But that's very, very tight to do that. Duane, in this situation, I think...
That's what Kelly is looking at, maybe seeing if you can get to the 1 and the 4 and get your 1 that way.
I really think the situation for the Edwards team here is that they have to make sure that they just give up 1. Don't try anything too fancy that you may end up giving up 2 or possibly even 3. Yeah, so
if he gets outside and gets his weight up and flashes this one, boy, that could be, that could certainly be the game breaker.
It's almost wise to almost play a draw down in there and even give up one. Like, he's got to make a very delicate, quiet hit and roll. It's so easy to just actually graze that shot, Brian. If you play it too quiet, you could graze the front one, leave it in, and roll right
the
through
shooter out
and give up a 3. So I think the best situation here is he'd be really, really happy to see just a 1 stolen on him.
Well, the folks out at the Deloraine Curling Club will be holding their breath on this one.
Yeah, this is a really difficult shot.
Here's the situation. Bubbs lies 3 at the moment. 4th belongs to Edwards, but I don't think it'll even come into play. Edwards with last rock here in the 6th end. About to deliver it. We're tied at 2-2. Could be 1 for Edwards. It may be 3 for Bubbs. Trying to come in with the outturn to see if he can get into that 1 on the 4 foot. He's got to try and keep the line on it so it doesn't rub off that top one. I think he's going to get a rub on it. Fine shot. What a shot.
I got to hand it to him. That's one heck of a shot.
And that's why Duane Edwards is playing in tonight's final.
Gutsy shot. That's a great shot.
And that is the savior so far in this game, because it may have cost him 3 if he didn't make it.
Boy, he just gets by. If he ticks that guard, he gives up a 3. So just a superb shot. Oh, great shot.
And watch Duane Edwards watching the shot. Sure, just another day at the office. Why not? I make those shots all the time. Well, that's certainly...
Duane Edwards in that last end. This is the situation in the house. As you can see, John Bubbs counting 3, and that 1 in the 4-foot ring is partially guarded. Now, this is the final rock of that 6th end, and what a tremendous shot it was by Duane Edwards. He'll get by the guard out in front, or the rock in the house, and then make the double to count 1. This could be a potential game-breaking shot. Let's go back up to Brian and Don.
And a shot I know that we're going to talk about once this game is over, no matter which way it goes, who wins this one. That could have been obviously the turning point if he had missed it. It's a dicey call.
Well, that was a great shot. Yeah, but he played the nice quiet weight at least. But if he grazes the front one, he doesn't even remove it at all, and he rolls out and gives Bubbs a steal of 3. If he gets even a little further outside, he could have hit the shot rock and still rolled out. So you got to give him full credit. That is one great shot.
I can still hear the applause in my ear from the Deloraine Curling Club all the way out here.
Oh, and the hearts are thumping pretty good out there, too, I'll tell you. They should be, too. What a great shot, though.
Well, Edwards picks up the 1 and goes ahead 3-2 after 6 as we have moved into 7th end action. And last rock advantage now turning around to John Bubbs. By the way, in the time remaining, we have 36 minutes still left for the Edwards foursome, 34 for the Bubbs rink. And we were mentioning about if your time runs out on you, you lose. Well, even if the other team is mathematically eliminated, say you're up by 4, you run out of time, and the other team only has 3 rocks left, you still lose.
Yeah, it's a tough rule, but there's no other way around it. Unfortunately, if you're going to put in a time rule, you got to have the game on the line on it. You can't say, well, you lose a point or 2 points or something like that. It becomes ridiculous. So it's either a really harsh rule or it shouldn't be done at all. So I think if you want to bring that into the game, which I personally think is great for the game to speed it up, it's going to catch a few guys off guard for the first couple of years. There's going to be a few teams that are going to get caught and lose some really horrendous games that way. But mind you, curling is the nature of the game of curling is losing horrendous shots. Sometimes it's maybe maybe a better way to lose than the way you do throwing. So there'll be a few losses that way, but I think it's a major step for the game and a great step for it.
Well, we're starting to see now some action on the outsides of the sheet as Don Williams shot the red stone that you see there, rolled over to the other side, did not roll all the way out, and John Bubbs tried to have the shot by Darrell Curry come around it.
But it's really starting to get quite exciting now with that, obviously, with that last shot of Duane Edwards. They just don't come any finer. That has to be the biggest shot that we've seen out here since that phenomenal double of Kerry Burtnick's against Bubbs yesterday.
Yes, and unfortunately for Kerry Burtnick at least, it wasn't a game winner, but it certainly was the shot of the game.
Well, it got them into the extra end.
Now Kelly McMechan attempting to remove the Wildwood stone, the back of the 12.
I'd like to get a hit and roll on that, Brian. That's staying right out there.
And hits it right on the nose.
See, because it's behind the tee line, John Bubbs is going to ask Bobby Chenian just to come down to it. Maybe bump it back slightly. But he doesn't need to. He can come down to it and still be lying two. That's the key here. And for Bubbs, now with last rock advantage, he'll anything behind that tee line, he'll want to come down to. If you can't get the guards up front, this is fine.
Yep. Just for weight. Line's good. Line's good. Whoa.
John Bubbs gives the indication the line is good. Yep. Now it's just a matter for weight to get down to the McMechan stone.
Hurry hard. Right up. Right up hard. Come on.
It's really moving on him.
Yeah, it's starting to lose his line a little bit. Has he got enough to get it in there? It's going to be very tight.
Shot.
And hard to say there. We'll take a look at it from the top to see if we can tell who's lying shot.
Boy,
that one too.
I would think that.
I think Bubbs is lying two off of that, but I'm not totally sure. We'll have to toss the coin.
But they can go for it. If there's any doubt on it, they might just go for it. And you can see if they do throw the hit there, they can go for across the house double. I think that's what they're going for. If we can see from the overhead there, the angle, and so if there's a doubt on who's shot here, he'll try to hit this and possibly go over and make the double here, which he'll obviously kill his own back one. But I think that's what they should be playing here. And if he can make the hit and roll double as indicated there by Duane, then they'll be lying two. Once again with this classical tuck delivery, very, very smooth delivery. As good a tuck delivery as you'll see in the game.
Never takes his eyes off that broom all the way through his delivery. May move over a bit too much for him. Get the one. And the Yellowstone stays around for second and fourth shot. And we're still lying 1 and 3.
Still with this many rocks in play, there's
enough to move it out.
He's asking Bobby just enough to move it out of the house on this one. Still a nice quiet weight shot.
Yep.
Well, there's no doubt what Bob wants them to do on that one. Boy, this is not. Gee, that's straightening out on him. Oh, gee, that top one in there. It didn't look half that bad going down, Brian. I don't know. Bobby Chenian obviously knew when he let it go that it wasn't going to be a great shot. So
yeah, because he yelled him off the moment he let it go, and then it ended up by saying, "Get off of that."
Here's his reaction here. Obviously not pleased. That was a big miss for them, for the Edwards foursome. This gives him a nice chance to. That's a real turnaround, a good break for them.
Tricky little spot, isn't it?
didn't think he overthrew it too much. It just is, as Bubbs says, a tricky spot.
Yeah, there might have been a little bit too much weight because John Bubbs mentioned to him when he was down there before, he said, just got to move it out.
Yeah.
And that was more weight than just moving it out.
You're right. He had good, probably good bumper weight on this. See, that looks like a hit and roll, too. Well, it's a bit of break. There's a break for the Bubbs.
Break both ways.
Yeah.
And again, John Bubbs will try and come down to that Edwards stone that is sitting on the tee line at 9 o'clock.
See, Duane was just talking to his front end, saying just a little more weight than he'd wanted to on that. For Bubbs, he's just, you know, it is on the tee line here, but what he wants to do is just simply come down and nudge it back slightly to make sure he's got shot rock. Just nestle right in there.
See if we can just come down in that little...
Does the situation of the moment, do you think, have anything to do with what we're seeing with the weight up a bit? I mean, you might be saying to yourself when you come out of the hack, I don't want to get inside in this one and pull, and he just might, too much leg drive coming out of the hack, and all of a sudden the weight is there.
Well, I don't know. I think the guys are, as long as their concentration level is up, they're not going to do those kind of things, but every once in a while you do overthrow a rock, and both Duane and Jenyon both did in that situation.
Bubbs likewise would seem to have plenty of weight. The brush is just keeping it clean in front. They just want it to come down to that Edwards stone. It's got to move over. They've got to get it in to get shot. Fine shot from John Bubbs.
Excellent shot. Nice controlled weight. A hit on the nose should remove it for Duane. With reason, any sort of reasonable weight, I think that he should be able to knock it out here, but he's got to be careful he doesn't set up a double.
Go over there.
Overcut. The second one just fell back immediately after let it go. Fell back a foot and a half. I mean, you know, no ice. End up 2 feet outside the rock.
Yeah.
Now there's another point where John Bubbs is so important to this rig because yes, it was a miss. It could have been a very big miss. And regardless of what had happened after it, John Bubbs would still be able to smile about it and keep his composure, and that reflects on the rest of the rink so they don't get so upset.
Oh, yeah, you see right there, even the fact that he's laughing. Like, this is a provincial title on the line, and John never, ever gets rattled. There isn't anybody in the game that is quite so calm and efficient out in the ice. So, you know, if you're a young curler wanting to learn how to play the game, both physically and mentally, the mental approach to the game, Bubbs is your man. So you gotta just listen to what he's doing. He's just marvelous when it comes to his attitude.
Duane Edwards with his last rock here at end number 7. The hammer still to come from Bubbs. Edwards leads it 3-2. Looking to remove the Bubbs stone. Does. Shooter rolls out. Eliminates the other rock that was in there, and it would leave Bubbs here a delicate hit for 2.
Delicate is the word. You're absolutely right on that, Brian. That's for Duane. He just maybe stayed a little longer, but for John to be able to hit and stick there.
He needs just light hit weight here in order to save the shooter.
If it comes across the face of the rock at all, he just jams it back on his own. So this is a tough shot, and boy, I'll tell you, they to be able to hit and stick without removing your back rock.
The only thing would be here is if it starts to move, if it comes across the face, it's got to go right across it and pick it out the other way.
Well, yeah, then he rolls out, though. But then the danger there is if he raises it back on there and then simply rolls out, then he allows Duane Edwards to steal one. So, touchy shot.
Final rock, 7th in.
Yep. Whoa.
Bubbs. Trying to the nose hit here. He wants to save the shooter.
Boy, that's really floating on him. He's just going to get one on this.
It is, and he'll end up with 1. And it will tie it up at 3-3 after 7. The advantage here is that last rock goes back to Duane.
We'll be in action here at the Winnipeg Arena. Selected tickets are available at all Manitoba curling clubs. 9-day event tickets are priced from $150 to $175. Ticket applications are available from Canada Safeway stores.
Welcome back to the Winnipeg Arena. Brian Swain with Joe Pascucci and Don Finkbeiner. We're into 8th end action here. It's tied up 3-3. Last rock belongs to Edwards. You see the only rock in play at the moment is that long guard out in front. Darryl Curry trying the in-turn to come in behind it.
No.
Curry would like to see a little fade on this, being the golfer that he is.
Yeah, he is an excellent golfer, actually.
Good rock, Darryl.
Represented the province many times. Posts it out in front, and it settles down as a center guard once again. Now, let's see. Duane Edwards talking with Kelly McMechan. Should we peel it? Should we come in around? He was thinking of coming in around behind it, but then decided at the last moment to
Well,
peel.
I think what's going to happen here, he's going to say, well, I think he's just giving some information to John Bubbs, because this will probably be the last time he peels. He'll probably get Kelly McMechan to come around on the next one, because he may have wanted to come around here, and the boys talked him out of it. So we'll see. And then John Bubbs, we'll see what he does on this. If he puts it up front, he's just going to say, okay, you go around it.
And he'll try to get a little tighter than that last one.
Yeah, that's a good point. If you are going to put the guard out front from Bubbs' point of view, make it fairly tight so that if Edwards attempts to go around and is a little narrow, he can raise you in. If it's a long guard, he won't be able to raise you in. So that's the reason for not just simply putting it up there anywhere.
Easy, 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 easy. Whoa, 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 whoa.
About halfway now. I want him to stay with it, to get a little tighter.
Good job, Darryl.
I guess Darryl Duane and Kelly talked about this. Maybe they'll continue to keep peeling the guards off here.
This one looks a little out from Don Williams.
A little out on that is right.
Might get a piece of it. That's about all.
Just enough. Yeah, he did force it out just a touch, but enough to get it out of the way. So now that we're down to third rocks, John Bubbs is going to have Bobby Genion coming into the house or a short guard. Either or.
(3-3) at this point in time, 8th end. Winner tonight will represent Manitoba, the Brier, Sault Ste. Marie next month.
With the exception of Bubbs himself, this would be a new experience for all 7 other members of the 2 teams out there.
Yes, most definitely.
Yeah. Whoa.
It's got to get off that center line before it will move over enough.
Close. Now hard. Hard, 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 hard. Come on, come on, come on. Come on, come on, come on. Come on, girl. Come on, here. Let me. Move it up. Come on. Good job, Bobby.
Settles onto the 12. And I would think that maybe Duane Edwards can see some of it, if any of it, maybe probably just a quarter.
Yeah, he's got to look at playing quite quiet takeout weight to be able to get this and be able to stick around, be able to hit. We saw that previously when they threw down there.
Other championships that are coming up, by the way, following this weekend. Next weekend, the action will be in Morris for the Western Mixed. That's February 15th to the 18th. And then on February 22nd through the 25th, 3 provincial championships in order. We'll have the Pepsi Junior Men's in Selkirk, the Pepsi Junior Women's in Minnedosa, and the Masters at CFB Winnipeg. And then starting the very next day when that one comes to an end, February 26th to the 28th, will be the Farmers Championship in Dauphin. And March 2nd to the 4th, the High School Championship, also in Dauphin.
And incidentally, the Edwards team is in that Farmers competition in Dauphin, and obviously will be highly rated.
The month after that, don't forget the Last Chance in Portage. April 1st weekend. It's a great bonspiel night. You have to go to that one sometime.
April Fool's Day, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, gee, he may have missed this one just.
Oh, and as a matter of fact, he just rubbed it over more behind the guard. It is in there now solid. So Bubbs lies 1, protected at the top of the 12. Last rock belongs to Edwards here in end number 8. Bubbs looking for Bob Genion now to come over to the other side of the house.
He's, in theory, set up a perfect 2, which is the way things have been going in this game at 2 is literally breaking it wide open. Now with the ideal guarded shot rock and now drawing in for 2. Bubbs certainly has the upper hand in his end.
Lots of room, yep.
But Edwards certainly made the shot of the game in the 6th end and could conceivably come up with another one here as he has last rock in the 8th.
They've got to get this one back. From their point of view, they want to get it back under the tee line to prevent Duane from being able to get a hit and roll off that. So they've done their job getting it back. You leave that a little high, Brian, and you can hit and roll in and still be above the tee line. But in this situation, for Kelly McMechan, he wants to be able to hit and roll in behind the guard. It will be behind the tee line, but the way things are running fairly straight down that other side, Brian, I think that would be a great shot. So Kelly, after missing that first one, has a chance to redeem himself by making a nice hit and roll. Duane checking the angle out there. All curlers have to look at exactly where they must hit that rock.
Not taking a lot of ice, just outside the stone. Is it coming over enough? It's the hit. Gets the roll.
Oh, what a great shot.
Beautiful shot. Beautiful shot.
Boy, did he make a super shot there. Boy, I got to give him credit on that. Good weight, too. Solid weight. So that makes it even more difficult to be able to make a shot. Watch the replay here.
Here it is
The guys
again.
are really yelling on it now. Excellent call by Duane Edwards on this one.
Just as it started to move.
Perfect hit and roll. Boy, they don't get any better than that. That's great. See, they're a little pleased with that.
John Bubbs trying to sweep it out, swept it in a little deeper, and I think it was going to pretty well get there on its own anyway. But it is buried. Back of the 8, lie 1.
The only
in like crazy anyway there, so
the only
you
good
might
thing,
have to just leave it high for position.
for John,
Trying to really tuck it.
the only situation here that. The only good thing about that shot is that it is behind the tee line, and he has got something to come down to, and he doesn't have to get right to the back of it. He can still come in above the tee line and still be okay with it.
Whoa.
Kenyon saying the line is good. It's a matter of weight now.
Lots of room.
And he said we may have to leave it high and try and use it later.
Boy, that's just staying on that line. Look at that.
Yep. Hurry hard.
So it says settles in. Bubbs lies 2, or I should say second and third. Edwards lying shot.
Yeah, that's.
Boy, talk about nothing going for that rock. Less ice than yours, and it doesn't bury. Yeah. Less weight than yours.
Okay, Duane's looking at this situation now. He's okay from that. What they're looking at there is if they hit it straight there and stick. Obviously, he wants to hit it straight through on that situation. The damage, the obvious danger on that is if it stays out like John Bubbs did and he jams it back on their own and hits and rolls over here, then John has a shot at 3. Mind you, with at least with Duane having last rock here, he can afford to go for it a little more aggressively.
Saying to Kelly McMechan, just a little more ice, another inch. It will sit out there a bit. Time remaining, by the way, as we entered this 8th end, 29 minutes for Edwards, 27 minutes for Bubbs. So both of them are pretty well right on time. Doesn't need to take a lot of ice here, as we saw by John Bubbs' shot. It just sat on that center line and refused to move.
He can't afford to get outside at all on this.
Waiting for it to come over. You don't want to jam it back on their own. Just manages to get it by.
Great shot.
I think Duane Edwards was holding his breath for a moment. It looked like it wasn't going to move at all.
Boy, that's as close as you come. It's an excellent shot, too. And not only does he make it here, you can see on the replay, just starting to come off that center line now. It's a nice movement on it. You see, just gets by, but it rolls over beautifully to guard the center of the house, too.
You like that double, or would you rather throw the... It's nothing else there. You got to throw it.
As for the percentages, by the way, John Bubbs' team is at 73%, and the Deloraine rink under Duane Edwards at 76.
I think you got to throw this double here and just...
John wants to cut his losses on this. He hopes to get the double and then force Wayne. If he does make the double, obviously a great shot, and then he forces Wayne to make a nice shot to get one.
Hit it high side, make it a double.
He's taking a little bit less ice here than Duane Edwards took on his, so he may be bringing his weight up some in order to get that kind of an angle.
Well, they may throw differently, too. John may throw a little more out to the broom than Duane does. He'll
Whoa, 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 yeah!
Has one, and that's it. An excellent try by John Bubbs to pick off the deuce, but it is a matter now here for Duane Edwards. He has a draw of full 8. And John Bubbs even talked about it before in the break with Joe Pascucci. A 2 could be quite an end in this game.
Amazing, you know, like you got to give, you know, when you look at it, it's an interesting the way the end is developed. Kelly McMechan, he made a bad shot in his first one, really knocking just tapping the rock in behind the corner guard there. All of a sudden, the advantage is to Bubbs. The Bubbs team's lying too. Then Kelly makes this great hit and roll, which has set this up. So it just shows you how the game, the momentum can shift so rapidly in one end.
Go to hero in 2 shots, as a matter of fact. He missed the first one, and then a beautiful hit and roll on the second one.
Yeah, so, and then Duane's first one, just perfect, a little quarter-inch less, and he jams it on his back one. So it's just been an incredible end, really.
Duane Edwards here just has to make it to the 8-foot. Now Kelly McMechan comes out, take a look at it. Wants to make sure they have enough weight. He's to the 12. To the 4 first 2.
Excellent shot, excellent draw.
And the first deuce that we have had in this game, and it could be a very important 2. It goes to Duane Edwards of Deloraine in the 8th end, and he takes a 5-3 lead. Here's a look at it again.
Actually, in this situation on the replay, the front end were really getting excited about sweeping it, and Kelly came out to calm them down a little bit because it had plenty of weight, and it settles in there nicely.
Tankard championship game. Don Pinkbeiner spoke of it as we left you in that last end. This is the shot that set up the deuce. The third, Kelly McMechan for the Deloraine foursome with the hit and roll. This was the shot that set up the 2 in that 7th end, in that 8th end for Duane Edwards.
But that rolled far enough that they really couldn't do very much with it.
Okay, we're back with Darryl Curry's second shot.
Yep.
They're desperately, Brian, we were talking about it in the break there. They desperately need a break now.
A little tighter,
getting some rocks up front. And you can see, like that draw, the confidence of the Edwards rink is just oozing out of them now. You can just see them. They're a mile high right now. And it's almost like they can't be denied in their opinion. They are really pumped up on this. And of course, that's a bit of a downer for the Bubbs team when the end looked like it was going their way there in the 8th, and then all of a sudden it turns around and Edwards makes a nice draw for 2. But
yeah,
boy,
I still think when we look back on it all, it's going to be that decision of Edwards to go for the 1 in the 6th end.
Well, that too, and then also you got to give credit for the great hit and roll with Kelly McMechan on that last end. That set that whole end up. They were in a bit of trouble, actually, up into that point, and then all of a sudden he makes a great hit and roll in behind there. He really set the deuce up. That's why thirds get the big bucks for these Tankard playdowns.
By the way, we can also bring you an NHL update. The Jets were leading the Edmonton Oilers 3-0 in the first period. It's now 4-4 in the third.
It's like some of the Tankard games.
Mm-hmm.
And I must say, there's a tremendous support from the Deloraine crowd behind us here, Brian. They are really pumping these boys up. There's quite a bit of excitement in the stands here for the Deloraine foursome. And
you talked about Don Williams and Jack Edwards looking like they were really anxious to sweep in that stone before, and this may be the time for Kelly McMechan to pull on his experience, keep them settled down so they don't overthrow getting into the final end.
Well, it's true. They were actually partially oversweeping that rock, and he came down there to calm them down a little bit. You know, you could see when Bubbs just left the opportunity for a draw for two, and with the first two attempt in the game, you could see how excited they were to get this chance, and they were really pumped up about it. And Kelly came out to calm them down about the hog line further sweeping. So you're right, they could rely on that experience.
Edwards doing the best that he can just to keep peeling them off. He wants to keep it as clean as he can. Leads by 2 here in the 9th end.
This is what they did to Kerry Burtnick too when they won the A-side final. They just peeled everything in sight. They're just a great hitting team. But certainly one little slip and the Bubbs' team is right back in it. So there's certainly a long way to go yet.
They'll be on the edges of their seat in both the Deloraine Curling Club and the Wildwood Curling Club, watching this one.
Yeah, a little bit.
Now deciding to go to the outside and set up a corner guard and get off that center line.
That's good.
Go to the other side of center.
So really all you need is one nosed guard or one missed guard, and all of a sudden you can get your 2 back in there, Brian. And if, for instance, John gets a 2, the tide coming home, anything can happen.
Duane Edwards with the same expression now as he had when he walked in and played his first game against Brian Thompson of Plumas, which he won in an extra end. Edwards out to peel off the Bubbs stone. Corner guard. The only rock in play. Does that, rolls the shooter out. We need a response from the Deloraine contingent behind us.
But in reflecting back over watching them play in the Tankard the last few days, I still maintain it was the game against Lofgren, where they just sort of rose a level of play, and they became so powerful. And what I saw on that game, and in the game against Burtnick, they became then the strongest team in this field. They were just like all of them. They looked extremely powerful. And you can sense this every year. You see this. You see teams come in here, and they raise to that level or they don't. And in this situation, they definitely have. Bubbs' team here had struggled a little bit, but Johnny Bubbs has played so outstanding. He's kept them in, and now, mind you, all they need is one little break, and they're right back in here. But you gotta admire the way that the Edwards teams have been playing in the last few games.
Yeah, talking of levels too, I like the comment from Duane Edwards regarding the first time that he got into Tankard play in Dauphin, and said, prior to that, I was a bond spieler. I got into the Tankard and became a curler.
That was a tremendously interesting comment. That's a great comment. It's a completely different game when you get into this. You can be very successful on the bonspiel circuit, but until you get into this, it's just most curlers have no idea the difference until they experience it both. And there's nothing on the line but straight pride. There's no money, but just the greatest thing you ever wanted. And that's that Purple Heart.
Not to say that they haven't realized the importance of the shot from the outset, from the time that the first stone was delivered, but they are now making sure they clean the ice house to house all the way up. They don't want to take any chance on having anything on the ice affect the running surface of the stone.
But they can literally taste it. There's no denying it. They can taste it.
So Edwards does his job. It'll be up to John Bubbs here to try and blank the end. He'll be down 2 coming home with. But he certainly doesn't want to take one here and be down 1 without.
Yep. 3 hard.
They have to keep it on the high side of the stone.
I think John's going to take one. He's going to roll in.
He is. That's the last thing he wanted to do. But John Bubbs takes one. He narrows the gap to 5-4, and now we'll have to look for the steal of one. He will not have last rock in the 10th. The Edwards rank
leads John Bubbs 5-4, coming home in this 1990 championship final of the Manitoba Labatt Tankard. Besides earning a trip to the Brier in Sault Ste. Marie, this is what they are playing for, the Tankard mug, and of course, the Purple Heart, which Don Finkbeiner wears proudly.
This, of course, being the 1990 version. Yours, we'll just say, was a little time ago.
Well, they don't look like that one there, I'll tell you. They've changed their style. Well, like everything. Clothes have changed their style.
Why not Purple Hearts?
But, Brian, at least it's an old one, but it is one.
You've got
you know,
one.
like
right,
I've been listening to you all the time. But anyhow, nothing. We'll end that.
You weren't going to say it, so I said it for you. At least you have one. Absolutely.
Well, when I watch this out here, I thank God I have one. I'll tell you. When I watch how many good players don't get them, it's really a humbling experience.
Isn't that the truth?
Got Darryl.
So Johnny Bubbs still looking to try and keep those center guards up there to see if he can steal one here in the 10th end. So far, the Duane Edwards rank has been quite successful in running them off. Don Williams, 75% after 9 ends. He can taste that Purple Heart. This Edwards foursome has been very good at peeling those guards.
Well,
very steady.
Yeah, they're the only team that's been able to do it that we've witnessed in the Tankard, Brian, so far. Like, they did it against Burtnick, and all other teams seem to have struggled trying to clear guards, but with the exception of Edwards. But as they say, they've been most impressive in the last day or so.
Darryl Curry with his last of second stones here.
Yep.
And number 10.
Yep.
He hopes not the last one that he has thrown here in the Tankard.
All they need is one real break, and I think realistically what Bubbs is hoping for. They're not going for the win here by any means. They're just hoping to get a chance to play an extra end.
You brought up this point before. This is the time when you settle down the hack and you say, all I want to do is my job right now.
Yeah, this is where the guys, well, I can be a little facetious here when they say, well, I've cleared my guards. It's not my fault if we lose. I think every player, if they're honest, will admit that they go through that in their own mind. And if the skip misses his, they say, well, geez, we certainly set you up for the victory. And every curler starts ticking them off. Wow, they've been doing this for a couple of ends now. They just say, okay, all I got to do is make 2 more. Now Don's made his. He's saying, okay, Kelly, you do yours now. You can't help but think that way, though.
There is a corner guard of sorts set up out there that Bob Jenion is now going to try and get around behind, see if he can get one into the 12-foot on the tee line. Look at concentration, checking the line.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Yep. Yep. 3. Very hard. Very hard. Come on. Hard.
You notice the pace of John Bubbs' voice picks up there. He goes from hard to yep to hurry, and you know that he's really starting to mean it.
It's interesting. A lot of people say, well, why doesn't he put up another center guard here? I think what he's he's doing there, he says, okay, let's get one over here, bury it in behind that guard, hope that Kelly will go for the guard, peel the guard off, and leave them lying one. Put your second shot in the house and hope for Duane to roll out on his last one so that you can get to the extra end. So I think that's what John's thinking is on this. What he doesn't want to see, of course, is that Duane, who's throws such a strong takeout weight, and probably, if anybody could throw heavy weight in this entire field accurately, it's got to be Kelly. What he's hoping here is that Kelly doesn't jam it straight back and roll out also, which is quite possible the way Kelly has been playing.
At the moment, Bubbs lies 1, just a biter of the 12 at about 2 o'clock. With 3/4 in behind a corner guard that Kelly McMechan is going after now. Now, did he get outside in this one? Well, he removes the guard, but he leaves Bubb lying 1, which is what the Wildwood rink had in mind. Still 3 stones to come apiece here in end number 10. Edwards leads it 5-3. The winner tonight will join the list of Ed Wernich out of Ontario, Al Harnden from Northern Ontario, Hal Breckenridge from Alberta, and Craig Lapine, BC, and Jamie Schneider from Saskatchewan, representing their respective provinces in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, at the Brier.
Easy. Yep.
I believe I erred in saying 5-4. Yes, it is 5-4. I believe I said 5-3. Bubbs looking for the steal of 1 here to tie it up. He has a rock in the rings at the moment at 2 o'clock, and they now have a center guard out in front that Duane Edwards is going after.
Well, he's hoping, Kelly is hoping to hit this about a quarter of it, maybe double off the guard and the biter in the house. See, Duane is checking the angle for that. So Kelly's talking with the front end as to what he,
I think he looked over and he sort of shook his head, I think, as if to nod down to Kelly, saying, I don't think it's there. You'd have to get it too thin. And he wants to make sure that he makes contact on the stone.
Well, he's got to hit and roll out. That's the key on the shot. Whether he gets a double, that would be certainly a bonus.
As the 1, the shooter rolls out. Bubb still lies 1. Skip rock's yet to come.
Boy, I'm really impressed with the way Kelly throws a rock. He is one impressive curler.
John Bubbs moves down.
Yeah, just in front of the house if we can.
The indication there of the shot that he is after. He wants to get it on the center line, just at the top 12, just outside the house. 63% after 9 ends, well down from the percentage that he had in his last game against Jeff Tipping.
Oh yeah, definitely not vintage Bubbs curling here, but this has been an extremely tricky sheet of ice.
Yes, definitely, and that will drop the percentages well down. Bubbs' foursome is at 77%, and Edwards is at 79% as a rink. Heading into this end, Edwards had 17 minutes remaining. Bubbs had 14 minutes remaining on the clock. That is just about where he wanted it.
Over here.
That's all we can do, yeah.
That's right. Not much more you can do. Not much more you can do.
Watch mine, okay?
Pressure starting to build on all 8 members that are out on the ice now as they get down to the Final 3 stones here in the 10th end. Edwards leads 5-4.
For Bubbs, of course, he's waiting for some sort of break. I think he's just hoping that on Duane's last rock that he'll probably or hope to hit and roll out, go for an extra end.
He called him on this one all the way. Now off.
All he's got is hit and roll out.
Is he going to get to the Bubbs stone? No, but it rolls out. Still leaves Bubbs lying 1, and this time Bubbs will bring it into the house.
That's not, that's not an easy shot. The straight, those peels under pressure like that. So those are certainly not easy shots under the conditions of the pressure and the situation.
Last rock for John Bubbs here in the 10th. Still the hammer to come from Edwards. He leads 5-4. Bubbs with the only shot in play, just biting the 12-foot at about 2 o'clock.
Doesn't really matter. I guess fairly deep.
So he wants to get it towards the back of the house, which makes it easier for Duane to hit and roll out in here. If you put it right
even if he gets it right to the back of the 12, even half 12, 3/4 12, it's more opportunity for Edwards to roll out with his last one.
Stay close. Stay close. Fairly deep. Oh.
What he doesn't want to do,
Stay
though,
close.
is go through.
Deep. Get it.
Well, they've got to bring this one back. They don't want to.
Yeah, they should have brought it back more than that. That's John was right.
Yeah, I think there was a mistake there. They left it room for Edwards to roll off of that one and still count off of it. He doesn't have to be too worried on this. If it had come back into about half 12 even.
Yeah, exactly. If you put it in the back of the house, then he's going to question whether he should draw or hit.
Right,
even if he hits, he's got a good chance of rolling out if it's at the back. Well, for Bubbs, all they got to do is cross their fingers and hope that he rolls out. For Edwards, of course, they hope that Duane just hits and sticks right there. It's all on the line.
This shot could conceivably declare the 1990 Manitoba Tankard Championship. Duane Edwards out of Deloraine just has to hit and stick, and they will go to Sault Ste. Marie as the provincial champions.
I think he's got it.
He's on it all the way. Has it? No. Just a moment, folks. Is he going to roll out? He does, and Bubbs gets his one to go into an extra end.
Oh, I thought he had it, Brian. That seemed to move on them.
Well, I'll tell you what, Darrell Curry and Don Hilton had both walked completely away from that sheet over by a water cooler. Neither one of them really wanted to look, and I think they only reacted to the response of the crowd.
See, that halfway down, I thought he had it, and you could sense, I was watching Kelly in his reaction. He was almost like keep it clean. I thought he had it. It's a bad break, obviously, for Edwards. He looked like he deserved to get that shot. But now they got to maintain their composure. It's still there.
Well, Edwards won. That could be the telltale story of this game. As it's tied in 5, we're into extra ends. Duane Edwards had a chance to wrap up the provincial title. Had to hit and stick with his final stone, rolled out. Bubbs the steal of 1. We're into an extra end. And again, Bubbs is asking his second man, Darrell Curry, to set up a center guard. See if he can steal his way into the Briar at Sault Ste. Marie.
Yep, come on. Come on. Okay.
Yeah, I thought...
I'm getting a little excited, and I think I called him Dwight Edwards. I know a chap by the name of Dwight Edwards.
Come on.
It is Duane Edwards, of course, from Deloraine.
Yeah, I was actually a little surprised. I was pretty sure that he had that rock to hit and stick there, because I was watching the reaction of Kelly McMechan, the way he was calling it, and it seemed to be okay. I think it just took off. But nonetheless, we're into the extra end, and the pressure's still on both the teams, and we'll see how their peeling is here.
As he did in the previous end, their peeling was very good. They've continued that so far, as 6 rocks are now out of play.
Boy, they're accurate with that. That's quite incredible.
Darrell Curry again. Putting up that center guard.
No.
Bubbs looking for a nose hit or a miss, something you can get in behind or raise back.
Shot, Daryl.
Well, you could feel the tension mounting when that stone came halfway down the ice of Edwards there in that last end. A hush just went over the building.
Well, that's nice feeling. Donnie Williams and Jack Edwards extremely accurate on that.
As we move into third stones and counting. Bubbs again changing the ice just a little bit, moving it over, broom over, trying to put the stone in a little different run.
I've just been trying to recall the last time the provincial title went to an extra end.
Yep.
Well, I am positive in saying if you don't know, I don't. That mental file that you have up there.
Yep.
You don't have an extra end file.
Hurry.
No, I just try to think. But it's been a long time.
Bob Genya just moves the guard to the other side of the center line. You know, the other thing about it, we were talking about there's the folks from Deloraine who have their Duane Edwards Briar Bound.
Well, they came within an inch or so of it in that last end. Let's see if it can happen this end.
The peel by Kelly McMechan. Gets a piece of it, rolls it out. We were talking about last end, you know, when you get the front end, the leads and the seconds, counting the stones, saying, well, my work is done, and thinking, well, that's it. We're out of here. We're done. This is all the curling that we're going to do for the next week or so. Tonight, the celebrations, and all of a sudden they find themselves into another end.
Yeah, they got to regroup inside anyhow and do it all again. And obviously, so far, they've been no problems.
Bob Genya with his last of third stones.
Easy, easy. Yep, yep, yep. Whoa,
Move this one down a little tighter to the rings.
Stop.
It settles at the top of the 12. Duane Edwards is taking a little time out. He wanted to start it down to talk to Kelly McMechan.
This is interesting now that he can hit and roll and stay on the side here. And then maybe not quite so much pressure on his last rock if he has to do it with the rock in the house, but they may just play to get rid of the thing totally.
I think it'd be guaranteed, though, if he hit and rolled just a bit to the left, you would see Bubbs try and come around it. He will peel it, and what he would prefer to have, I'm sure,
well,
the
to
end
get a little
result
lighter over there, Brian. That would be kind of nice in a way.
Is to have only one Bubbs stone in the rings, and that would be the only one that he would have to go after, and take a little pressure off the fact that if he missed it, it would be another extra end, providing everything rolled out, of course. As we head into Skip Rocks, John Bubbs.
See if we can get a bite. Yeah, somewhere's around there.
Looking to pull it into the top, just a bite of the 12.
Top of the ring.
Always composed right down to the end. John's very cool customer.
Yep. 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 Hurry. Easy.
Harold Curry and Don Hilding working it over in front just to make sure they get it to the house.
Yep.
Wants to make sure they get it to the rings.
spot here. It doesn't, just kind of.
Now Duane Edwards.
Sweep it, it falls kind of.
With his opportunity to appeal.
Which side do you want to go for?
You can hear John Bubbs and Bob Jenyon talking it over, saying, okay, once he removes this, which side do you want to go for? What do you think is the best side that, if he has a difficulty?
The book on him is supposed to dump his in here. That's what he's supposed to do. I haven't seen him do it yet, though, have you?
Bob Jenyon says, when you hear about the book on baseball players and such, it's facts about them and their tendencies, etc. He says, the book on him is that he's supposed to dump his in there, and I haven't seen him do it yet, this Tankard.
Yeah, he's okay on this one, too. Look at that. Boy, these guys can feel.
And that could be the truth, too, because I know that Duane Edwards prefers to throw the out turn. Many have their preferences. Did you have one? Into out?
Out turn.
Out turn?
I can easily say it now that my career is over.
You and Bernie Sparks.
No, I always
another one who always preferred the out turn to an in turn.
As a matter of fact, I just had to start working on my interns a lot towards the end of my career, but the out turn I preferred. I found it an easier turn to throw.
John Bubbs, his final opportunity here. It's tied at 5-5. 2 rocks to come. Bubbs will be putting this one in the house. And then he'll wonder if Duane Edwards will be thinking about his last one on the previous end. The scenario here is slightly different. He doesn't have another one to go along with it.
Yep. Well, just for wait.
He doesn't want to have Edwards not have to throw his last one, so they've got to keep this one clean. They've got to make sure it gets into the house.
Right back. Right back.
Jenyon out to help out. He gets to the 12, to the 8, to the tee line.
Well, both teams have done all they can in this situation. You see, Duane looks like he's giving the in turn on that. So if he prefers the out turn, he's certainly not going for it here. Oh, here he has another opportunity to do it.
At the last, same thing, Kelly.
That one was showing up.
Bubbs and Jenyon look on. Wondering, will fate strike twice? 1 rock to come here. Extra end. This may be the final stone of the 1990 Manitoba Labatt Tankard Championship. It's on his way. Edwards just has to hit and stick anywhere in the rings, and he will represent the province. Out is starting to move. Will he get enough of it this time? He does. It is right on the nose.
Yes, he's got it.
And Deloraine will take their colors to Sault Ste. Marie next month. They are the 1990 Manitoba Labatt Tankard champions. The rink of Duane Edwards, Kelly McMechan, Don Williams, and Jack Edwards with a 6-5 victory over John Bubbs of Wildwood. Now you see the emotion. That emotion we haven't been able to see since last Thursday. He is a happy man tonight.
Good luck in the Briar, boys. Nice game. Good luck in the Briar. Yeah, thanks. Good luck in the Briar, fellas. Nice game. Good game.
I can hear the resounding noise from Deloraine already out here from the curling club. A pretty exciting experience. Only the second time that Duane Edwards has been into the Tankard. This will be the first trip to the Briar for any members of that rink.
Well, that's an impressive team. Boy, did they play a great game here. That is a lot of pressure and right on the nose on that. You got to hand it to them.
And that pretty happy Skip is standing by with Joe Pascucci.
Thank you very much, Brian. Duane, just before we came on here, you said, what a dream, you can't believe.
That's for sure. God, it's just fabulous. Guys curled so good. Peeled great. I thought I had it on the 10th. I guess I threw a little. I thought we could roll a long way across that house, but the second hog line looked good, but it started to take off a little on me. But, oh, this is sweet.
You certainly added to the suspense.
Yeah, all week, eh?
Again, like in the A-side final, the 2 that you scored proved to be the difference.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, we said, let's keep her close for 5 ends, and we were a little unnerved, and I was surprised John and them kept her fairly open too. I think they figured, you know, let's not give them a deuce or whatever. And we played a good last half of the game. He was unfortunate. He had that hit and went straight back and stuck on ours. Ordinarily, you'd think it would have sprung off a little bit and left him shot, but very lucky.
Tell me, when you came into this tankard, just your third tankard ever, what at best were you hoping for?
Well, like I said this morning, I packed 7 shirts, and this is our 7th game, so that more or less tells you where we were aiming. But this is maybe a little further than I thought we were going to get. I'll be honest with you.
And it makes it special. Look at all the people behind you there cheering you on.
Yeah, my folks are here. Yeah, I've got a lot of work to do. 3 cars of barley to haul out tomorrow, supposedly. So I don't know when that's going to get done, but this is great. Oh, we're going to have fun tonight.
Okay, we'll let them get to that fun. The closing.
Well, you may be able to hear the pipers in the background. There they are as they bring on the 2 rinks tonight. John Bubbs of Wildwood, but in particular, our new provincial champions for 1990, the Duane Edwards foursome from Deloraine. We'll let the music carry it for a moment with the emotion. The winning rink of Duane Edwards, Kelly McMechan, Don Williams, and Jack Edwards. Along with the runners-up, John Bubbs, Bob Genion, Darrell Curry, and Don Hilton, as the pipes and drums of the Cartoon Temple circle to the back of the Winnipeg Arena and will bring the 2 rinks down the center sheets, where they will be met by a contingent of officials from both Manitoba Curling Association and Labatt. You can read those emotions. They, first time that they have made this trip down the center sheet. Up here behind us, the banner that reads Edwards Briar Bound. You see there the folks that came in from Deloraine. Don, you've been here before. You've been in this position before in 1976, I believe it was, when you won the province. You know what these emotions are about. Now let's get on to ice level and Bob Pickett.
Champion for the 66th time, for the 10th time for a club outside of Winnipeg, and for the first time for Deloraine. What a super job this team from Deloraine did here tonight. And how about that shot that Duane made on the 6th end? Didn't that set it up? And another special tribute, of course, to this team from Wildwood that didn't quit, went right down to the extra end. How about a salute for John Bubbs and company? Ladies and gentlemen, we are indebted to the Cartoon Pipes and Drums, led by Drum Major Don McIntyre and Pipe Major Sandy Beatty, who have become as much a tradition as anything at our post-Tankard ceremonies. Thank you, gentlemen, for tonight and for your piping throughout the week. And it's only natural, of course, to show our appreciation to CKND Television. Brian, Don, and Joe have done another excellent job of promoting this curling product throughout the province on their network. Thanks to CKND. There will be more thanks and acknowledgments from our official party, and may I introduce them to you right now. First of all, from Labatt, the Manitoba Sales and Promotion Manager, Mr. Bill Potter. The Promotion and Curling Coordinator, Dave Jowett. From the Manitoba Curling Association, President Howard Fairburn. President-elect Jim Younger. First Vice President and Tankard Chairman Cliff Schmidt. And Executive Director Lorne Kingyans. MCA President Howard Fairburn is first with his comments on this year's championship. Howard.
Thank you, Bob. Ladies and gentlemen, as the 1990 Labatt Tankard Championship draws to a close, I'd like to say just a few words of thanks. First of all, to all of the competitors, our faith in you to provide us with good and sportsmanlike curling has been more than justified. To you spectators, although in an arena this size you don't look like too many, your support over the last 4 days has been very gratifying. To Cliff Schmidt and his Tankard Committee, who do an awful lot of work that you don't see, and to our announcers, Bob Pickin and Roy Nordlinger, to our sponsor, Labatt's, without whose support and encouragement we would not be able to present the first-class event that we do, to the media for the coverage that you have given us, which is unparalleled, I'm sure, anywhere in Canada. And finally, to CKND for not only the show they put on here, but the coverage they give us in preparation for the event. And finally, my congratulations to the finalists tonight. Either of you would have been worthy representatives for the province, and I look forward to joining Duane and his team in Sault Ste. Marie to bring back the Labatt Brier Tankard.
This is the 11th year that Canadian curling has been under the sponsorship of Labatt's. I don't think we could ask for a finer sponsor, for a sponsor that dedicates as much as it does to our curling throughout this country and certainly in Manitoba. To bring you greetings from Labatt's, Bill Potter.
Thank you, Bob. All of us at Labatt's are extremely proud of our many involvements in the sport of curling, but the pinnacle of our involvement and our sponsorship and our pride is the Manitoba Men's Curling Championships. Each year it seems that Manitoba provides some of the finest entertainment in curling in Canada, and I think especially all our friends from Deloraine will agree that this year is no exception. Thanks to all the competitors for making this year's event such a great and exciting event. We thank you very much. Labatt's would like to also acknowledge the support of the many behind-the-scenes people who do just such a great job of presenting this championships. First of all, Cliff Schmidt and his many volunteers on the Tankard Committee, thank you very much from Labatt's. We appreciate it. To Howard Fairburn and the group at the MCA who put the product on the ice and support curling in so many ways and support Labatt's throughout the year. Thank you very much. Winnipeg Enterprises has done a great job again helping turn Winnipeg Arena from a hockey rink into a great place to hold a curling championship. Thank you very much, gentlemen. And of course, our great thanks go out to all of the thousands of fans who turned out this week to view the action live, and the many more thousands who watch the Labatt Tankard Championships on CKND TV. Thank you very much from Labatt's to all the fans. To the champions, we congratulate you in this, your moments of glory. Savor them while you have them. All of Manitoba wishes you good luck and good competition at the Labatt Brier and Sault Ste. Marie. Go get them, gentlemen.
The first of the presentations will be made to the runner-up team from the Wildwood Club in Winnipeg. Dave Jowett will bring forward the plaques that go to our runner-up finalists. And I know, in spite of the disappointment tonight, there still is the distinction of being the second-best team in a very good curling province.
You forget your rubbers again?
Skipper John, I know that right now you must feel very, very disappointed, but I think you've got to salute the effort of this team from Deloraine. They really didn't give you much of a chance here tonight.
No, they played an excellent game tonight. My team also has played very well all weekend. I'm very proud of them, and we got excellent support from our family, friends. But these guys played tough. There's no question about it, and I really hope that they do well in the Brier at Sault Ste. Marie, and that they represent Manitoba very well, as I'm sure they will.
John Bubbs of Wildwood, ladies and gentlemen. And now the presentations to our champions, and first of all, the provincial silver tankards. And Dave Jowett has those ready right now to give to this foursome from Deloraine. And naturally, after the silver tankards, what else but the Purple Hearts, the coveted Purple Hearts they are, and Bill Potter will present them to our team. Howard Fairburn of the MCA has the back crest and the pocket buffalo crest that this team will be wearing as it goes to Sault Ste. Marie. Howard, do those honors, please. There is a banner, a club banner, that is behind our official party, and I think that the Deloraine Curling Club may find a spot for that after it is suitably embroidered, engraved, and handed to our champions. Duane, how does it feel?
Oh, super. This is great. Can't believe it. What a dream.
17 years you've been curling. Did you expect to be standing here in the Winnipeg Arena ice and have your fans from Deloraine here, and those I'm sure who are watching ready to salute you for this accomplishment?
No, this is a surprise. Yeah, it feels great though. Actually, on Saturday morning I thought we maybe got a decent shot at it, but it was sure a surprise to see how well we took to the ice and how well we curled this week. It's nice.
As you look back on this game tonight, this super final against Bubbs, would you single out any particular shot or end where it made the difference and tipped it your way?
Yeah, there's one stand.
Kelly says number 6.
Yeah, I was very fortunate there. The guys picked it up and managed to hold it. I thought we've ticked and given them a 3, and I don't know yet how it got by, but when we got by, it wasn't going to go anywhere, that's for sure.
You're going to savor this victory, but of course the big challenge is carrying Manitoba colors and going on to Sault Ste. Marie and the greater challenge there. And remember, everybody here is pulling for you and hoping you go on to Västerås after that.
Oh, that sounds great. Yeah, like Kelly said, let's get to the Brier. They can't kick us out of there till it's over.
Kelly, you came awfully close to winning the Manitoba mixed title back in '84. This, I'm sure, is the curling highlight for you.
Oh, it sure is. You always think you might have a chance someday, but you never know how many chances you'll get. And we got here, and it worked, and it's great.
Oh boy. Kelly. And Don, how about a salute, I guess, for the little town of Medora that is adjacent?
Yeah, all 100 people, I imagine, are watching. So, hi, Medora.
And Jack, we know that it was a knee injury that took you out of hockey, but maybe it's kind of all worth it that you turned to curling here tonight.
Yeah, it feels pretty good. I didn't think in 8 years of curling I'd be right here, but we thought we'd give her a shot and seemed to adapt to the ice and did her, I guess.
There you have them, the 1990 Manitoba Men's Curling Champions. Ladies and gentlemen, before you leave, we have some final acknowledgments. I'm going to call forward our
extra end to win the night. As you can see, the Pipers are still out here on the ice. Duane Edwards from Deloraine, the 10th champion from outside of Winnipeg. And they will be going to Sault Ste. Marie, representing Manitoba at the Brier. And with unfortunately, the runner-up tonight, John Bubbs. And John, I'd hate to say the losing skip because it was such a close game, it could have gone either way.
Yeah, I got to talk to that Bob. He doesn't make those flips very often. I think when you start out on ice like this without last rockets, it makes it hard. You're kind of giving an advantage. But I thought we had him in the 6th end there. If that rocket his just curls a fraction more, we got 3 points. And I think they knew that. They just barely got that one by.
You know, Duane Edwards has proved tough all week. He's knocked off 3 former Manitoba champions. A true champion, Duane Edwards.
Oh yeah, they're playing very, very strong right now, and I'm pretty darn sure it's going to keep going with them too. Right to Sault Ste. Marie at the Brier. They didn't waver at all. They were letting it go clean right through that match, and we didn't get very many mistakes out of them.
All right, Brian, you have a question?
Yeah, hi, Johnny, it's Brian Bubbs. We can't say enough about that 6th end because it not only was the game breaker, it was the turning point. He made the shot, and I guess in hindsight you say it's the shot to make because he made it. But are you surprised, as we were, to see him go for that shot?
A little bit. I think he wanted to throw that considerably quieter than he did, but he managed to. He stepped it up. We thought his ice was very tight to start with on that shot, but his weight was up enough that he really hit that pretty solid when he did get it by. And you're playing it too tight if you're going to make the shot with that weight. But those sweepers just held the line for him. It was just great. But the other shot that I think was a turning point was the double, my double on the 8th end. If we could have made that double, we would have been back on an even keel again. That allowed him to get that deuce.
And I think you were probably surprised, John, to find out that you were going to an extra end. Once you got into the 10th, I know you wanted to put your stone back a little further, back into the at least the back of the 12 to give him more room to roll out. And I don't think you suspected, nor did we, that he would roll out from the position he was in.
No, I thought he'd make that shot pretty clean there, but I guess he just maybe downed his weight a little bit and it started to go on him, and he lost it and rolled out and gave us an opportunity for the 11th end.
Well, John, we can't say congratulations as a winner, but certainly as a runner-up, you've done Wildwood proud, and I know we'll see you back in the Tankard again.
Oh, I sure hope so. I'd sure like to win it sometime.
Well, maybe we just have to share it. You won it in '85, and I guess we have to let others take their turn, don't we?
Well, maybe you and I got to get on the same team, Swanee.
You said it, not me, and I'm going to hold you to it.
Okay.
All right, Brian Swain has found himself another skip. See Candy's coverage of the 1990 Manitoba Labatt Tankard.
Well, we have talked time and time again since it happened in the 6th end, the game breaker. Here's the situation now. We're tied at 2-2 after 5 ends of play between Bubbs and Edwards. Edwards has the last stone. Bubbs has 3 shots into the 3 stones lying in the ring. He's laying 1, 2, and 3 in very good order. We talked about this time and time again, Don. If he gets inside, he rubs off the top and he leaves Bubbs a steal of 3, and all of a sudden it's 5-2 Bubbs.
Oh yeah, this was a very delicate shot. If he just grazes one of them, he leaves Bubbs with 3. And here's the shot here. Very quiet weight hit here. And it was quite a gutsy call, really, when you think about it. And here you can see the guys furiously sweeping, and they just get by. John Bubbs said it was so close, and you can see just gets by, makes a great shot. Otherwise, he gives up a 3, and that could have been the ball game.
That has been our Labatt's game breaker, end number 6. As Duane Edwards went on to a 6-5 extra in victory. Don, he said he had a couple of cars of barley to bring in tomorrow, but first he had some celebrating to do. I don't think that barley's going to come in tomorrow.
No, I wouldn't think so. The boys are pretty happy right now, and it's really nice to see this emotion too. We haven't seen this in a few years, and boy, I'll tell you, that was a great finish to a really interesting week of curling.
Before we generalize on the week and just maybe a brief recap of the last 4 days, I must mention when you and I had a meeting last Tuesday or Wednesday, I guess it was, before it started, and we picked our rinks who we thought would be in. We both agreed that we felt out of the city rinks, Burtnick, Bubbs, whatever, would be here. That worked out right.
We agreed on David Smith.
We agreed on David Smith. I thought maybe Jeff Ryan might be a wild horse in there. Vic Peters we gave a count to. But then we got to the rural rinks, and I said, well, I really am voting heavily on Donnie Spriggs out of Portage. I said, if there's a rural rink, he can do it. You said, jumped out of the chair almost automatically. He said, no, it is going to be Duane Edwards. You were confident of it. I bow to you, sir. You were right.
Yeah, I certainly look good, and I'm sending a couple of Christmas cards out to the area next year, I'll tell you. No, they were great. I've seen them play before. They're a very powerful team, and it's just the kind of thing, if you get a few breaks and get on a roll, that you can do it. And I felt that there's a lot of rinks capable of doing this kind of thing, but when I've seen them in the past, especially with Kelly McMechan at third, very strong player. They had a few games earlier where they struggled a bit, but they won them, and that's the key. And they got some momentum going in the last couple of days. They were without doubt the best team out here, and they proved it tonight. And it just they turned into quite a bit of a machine there, and they're the only team that could peel guards, and it showed at the end. And they really emerged as a great team.
In an overview, I guess hats off to Don Edwards, the ice maker here, and his crew. Not one complaint from any of the curlers about the ice and the way it was, other than the fact that maybe the air conditioning was blowing some debris in the ice. But as for the ice making itself and the speed of it, every curler was happy, and I think that is why we had some such excellent games.
Yeah, nobody was complaining about the ice. It was a little tricky out there. We saw on sheet 1 at times, and rocks would fall back. But that's where these top-notch experienced skips are able to, manipulate the game around a little bit. They struggle a little bit down the middle on some of the sheets, but this last game was a great game. There are a few misses, keep things interesting, but boy, all in all, it was superb curling all around.
So that's pretty well it from our standpoint. We've really enjoyed doing this. Once again, this is the only time in the year that you and I happen to get together. You don't curl anymore, so I don't get to see you on the Bonspiel circuit. But we saw some great action here. We've once again, for I believe it is the 6th time, if Bob Picken mentioned it to it, a rural rink will take the Manitoba colors into the Brier. Let's speculate while we have a moment on the Brier and the chances for Duane Edwards and his rink out of Deloraine, because this was their first time into the Tankard for most of them, 3rd time for Duane. But going into a Brier, now if they thought there was tension today, wait till they get to the Sioux.
Well, I don't know about that. When I look at who's winning in the other provinces, with the exception of Eddie Wernich, they're all brand new in there. And I'll tell you, watching these guys play, you get over a big hurdle winning Manitoba. It's sort of like the biggest weight off your shoulders. And then when you get into the Brier, believe it or not, I think you get a chance to relax a little bit. And I'll tell you, if they can continue to curl like this, they got a really good shot at it. Wernich has the most experience, but he's got his hands full with this team, because this is as strong a team as Manitoba has sent out of here in many years. They're very powerful, and I give them a really good shot at it. I really do.
Now that I mentioned that, and you mentioned that, Oris Melischek, if I remember correctly, said last year when he won the province, and he was asked that same kind of question, once he got to the Brier, he said, you know what, I felt the pressure more in Manitoba.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think any of the curlers that ever broke through, it's the thing that you have to experience to realize that, because it's almost relief. It's a weight off your shoulders, because your great goal is to win the World Championship or get into the Brier and that kind of stuff. And when you ever get out of this province, which is the toughest thing, you do tend to relax. And I wouldn't be surprised to see these guys win that. And if they've got the same attitude, we've seen them raise their game a level. Their attitude is great. The pressure doesn't get to them. The way they were peeling guards under pressure, the pressure will not get to them in Brier, in my opinion. And they're just going to continue to get stronger. They throw so well, and I wouldn't be surprised to see them win. And Wernich as a team that's older, and they could get worn down a little bit, but when you look at the new field that's going into the Brier, I give these guys a real good shot at it.
I didn't think Duane Edwards was capable of showing emotion until the reaction after he got that hit in the extra end. That was a great shot, and one I'm sure we're going to see again. That's about it from here. We've gone over the last 4 days, the ins and outs of it. I'm sure that we've been pleased with it all. We're glad to bring it to you. That score, 6-5, an extra in. We couldn't have asked for a better game tonight. Now let's go back down to Tankard Control and Joe Pascucci.
All right, thank you very much, Brian. And I'd also like to endorse our curling expert, Don Finkbeiner, for picking Duane Edwards as one of his best bets. I also couldn't believe that selection when he made it, but that is why Don Finkbeiner is our curling expert and not me. All right, we'd just like to show you the final shot. Once again, the winning shot in the 11th end. Duane Edwards, the last rock on its way. If he hits and sticks, he is your Manitoba champion, no doubt about it. Not like in the 10th end when he rolled out. So Duane Edwards wins it 6-5 over John Bubbs. He is our 1990 Manitoba champion, and he will be going to Sault Ste. Marie to represent Manitoba at the Brier, along with third, Kelly McMechan, second, Don Williams, and lead, Jack Edwards. On behalf of Brian Swain and Don Finkbeiner, this is Joe Pascucci thanking you for watching our Tankard coverage. We hope to see you all again in 1991 when the Manitoba Labatt Tankard will be played in Brandon. And, of course, you can count on CKND to be your Tankard station. 6-5, the final score. A look at Manitoba's representatives in Sault Ste. Marie. Executive producer of Tankard coverage, Tim Jones. The producer, yours truly. The director, John Sapala. The technical producer, David Laux. Assistant producer, Stuart James. Technical director, Terry Tomasi. And the rest of the people that have made our coverage here in 1990 one of the best. And we'll do it again in 1991 in Brandon.